Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
The Foreign Secretary is forced to defend a government flight to Australia for a trade trip at a cost of £500,000.
Good morning. It's 6 o'clock on Friday, the 28th of January. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
And these are the headlines you're waking up to. Liz Truss accused of a grotesque misuse of public money, but says the government plane was available precisely so that government ministers can travel.
Let us know your thoughts on this morning in the usual way, GB News at GB News, or you can tweet us at GB News.
Nightclubs are to reopen and the rule of six ends today in Wales as the First Minister confirms a move back to alert level 0. But face masks will remain mandatory in shops and on public transport. Your views welcome.
And we're in Sherburn in Elmet today for On Your Doorstep. It's a village located in the Selby district of North Yorkshire. That's between York and Leeds. Our reporter Anna Riley may be knocking on your door this morning, so make sure you've brushed your teeth and you're looking presentable.
Yeah, get your hair brushed as well.
That's right.
Elmet and Sherburn in
Elmet. There you go.
That's where it is. But it looks a lovely place, and we're sorry we're not there, but Anna Riley is our representative on Earth, okay? We're live not only there, but across the whole of the UK on both your TV and radio, whether you're watching us in Lincolnshire or maybe you might be listening in Scotland, but you're going to be everywhere, because we are everywhere and we appreciate your company.
Yeah, don't forget you can take us with you. We're on the radio as well as on the TV, so do join us.
OK, here's the big talking point today. Was the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss right to use the government plane at a cost of £500,000? It took her to Australia. It didn't only take her, it took her whole department. They were able to work there. They were able to send coded messages, talk all sort of private things that you do when you are in government. Mm-hmm. But what do you think about this? Because it is a time of a financial squeeze. Is that the right use of your taxpayers' money?
Yeah, Dom says yes. It wouldn't have been 500k, more like 200k. So they're questioning the estimate about how much it cost. It wasn't just Liz on the plane, it would have been a whole delegation. What's the point of having a £150 million government plane if it's not used? It's an office in the sky, so would have saved losing about 5 days' work. Yeah,
I know she did make pronouncements on Brexit and Northern Ireland when she was there. So obviously, if you've ever done a trip to Australia, there are only so many films you can watch, and then there'll be a stopover in Dubai or something like that as well. And I think the point is, Isabel, as well, you've got this thing. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. They've spent 150 million quid on it. So what do? Do you just leave it there and don't use it? But then a lot of people will say, you know, it's time of a great credit squeeze. People are being asked to pay more for the utility bills and whatever. And it is, one of the words used, a grotesque misuse of public money.
Well, the question is also, where do you stop when you start looking into the way the government spends money? I mean, of course, the Foreign Secretary has her grace and favour home, Chevenix House, and that would cost an absolute fortune to run.
Think of the heating bills
the heating bills, the staff, the butlers, being Foreign Secretary, you get a lot of perks. Do we want to keep funding it in the way we do? Perhaps that's another debate. Effion Camule, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, says the government's wasting more of the money they take from us, and yet they'll cry that we're the reason for climate change. Ooh.
John Moore, Truss is in cloud cuckoo land if she believes this. No wonder our taxes are going up and we're so heavily in debt. This government has wasted money like no other. For example, track and trace, PPE. They just chuck money at anything regardless whether it's value for money or not. Look, John, I'm going to say this. Do you think they have this debate in America and they say, oh, that Joe Biden, he's on that Air Force One. That's a terrible waste of money, whatever. No, they just do it. They look the part, they act the part, they get respect around the world because they land. Not only, there's not just one Air Force One, there's Air Force Two as well.
Well, that's for the president, not necessarily. I don't. Maybe Anthony Blinken probably does get all the trimmings as well.
With the press are on board as well. That's the thing. Bring the press with you, then you won't get any griping or complaining about it all. No, I think it's trappings of office. And I remember David Cameron, when he came to office, he was, I'm going to cycle from my home to Westminster and all this sort of idiotic talk. Because he was hugging polar bears and things at that time. I remember he was trying to look all green. And then obviously you realise the realities of the job is that you have to have a Range Rover and 6 outriders around you for security reasons, or else Al-Qaeda will blow you out of the ground. So, yeah, there's a reason for everything. And I always believe, look the part and you'll be treated like the part. That's my view on this.
Well, let's bring in Tom Harwood. He is our political correspondent. He's outside number 10 Downing Street this morning, and we can get his views on this. Here we are once again with the spotlight on the government, perhaps for reasons that they wouldn't welcome. What did Liz Truss have to say about all of this?
Well, Liz Truss is making clear that this was government business and a proper use of the government plane. I heard you talk there about the Americans and the number of planes they have. It's interesting, actually, there isn't just one Air Force One, there's a whole fleet of them. And it's called Air Force One depending on which particular plane the US president is on at any one time. The Germans have 15 government planes with 3 more on order. The French have 5 government planes. I think that to some extent people will think this is a bit of a storm in a teacup around the Foreign Secretary using this government plane for a trip to Australia. Of course, Australia, one of our closest geopolitical allies, particularly in the Pacific region, where we're sort of pivoting to after Brexit. We've just signed the AUKUS deal to sell them nuclear submarines. We've also done a historic trade deal with that country. It's a very close ally. It's understandable why the Foreign Secretary is there. And it's interesting that this is a story that sort of is being alighted on now as we are waiting for Sue Gray. And I can't tell you how irritating that phrase has become as this stretches on into yet another week and people find other stories that are circling around this government to talk about. Something else that is on the forefront of people's minds right now, and something that the Prime Minister has not given a fulsome answer to in the last few days, is of course that national insurance rise as well. Will it or won't it go ahead? There is so much uncertainty around government right now.
Right, Tom, thank you very much indeed. You see, that is it. I think maybe the unfortunate bit about all of this was Liz Truss's persona in all of this.
Well, we've got a clip of her. Should we listen to how she defended herself?
Yeah, let's see how this is how she came across. Tell me, I mean, I'm not saying what she's saying is necessarily wrong. Maybe it's just the way she says it.
I use the government plane. That is why we have a government plane, to enable government ministers to conduct government business, and that's what I flew to Australia in.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's not the worst clip I've seen of her, but look, you know, it is an instrument of government. I personally don't have a problem with it, and especially if she does trade with Australia, why not?
Yeah, I just imagine all the people at home that's struggling to heat their homes might have questions about whether or not it's good use of taxpayers' money when they're going to be asked to try and pay for it this year. Let us know your thoughts this morning. As always, get involved in the debate. Lots of other news around this morning. Let's bring you up to date with the headlines. And as we've just been reporting, the Foreign Secretary has defended her decision to charter a private plane to Australia, which reportedly cost
She didn't charter a private plane. Does it not exist as a government plane? I thought it was there, sitting on the runway, ready to be used. That's why they have a government plane. So they didn't charter it. Anyway, that's going to be the big talking point of the day. Now let's move on to other stories that you'll hear in the news today. COVID restrictions have been lifted in Wales. The rule of 6 has been scrapped. People no longer have to social distance and nightclubs can now reopen.
It's your Friday night sorted.
That's me right in the middle. See, with the hat on there and the glasses, that's me. COVID passes will still be required in cinemas, theatres and concert halls.
More than 1 million university students will be hit by up to 10 days of strikes next month. Lecturers at nearly 70 institutions are planning to take action over what they describe as beyond disgraceful pay conditions and pensions.
The government is pledging to make British Sign Language a recognised language. It's hoped a new bill will improve access for deaf people and promote its use during public announcements.
The UK has pledged a further £97 million of emergency aid for Afghanistan after promising to double financial support following the Taliban's takeover in August last year. It brings the total to £286 million this financial year, which is being used to help buy food, water and sanitation facilities.
And of course, former Prime Minister Gordon Brown involved in a big humanitarian push on that front, and hopefully we'll be talking to him in the next week or so. National Trust has revealed plans to create a new habitat for wildlife.
The so-called Green Corridor will link the centre of Bath to surrounding countryside, running through 40 hectares of meadowland that they've acquired. It's the first of 20 corridors that the Trust will create by 2030, covering England, Wales and Northern Ireland.
It's funny you stumbled over the word hectares there.
Hectares, I don't know. Yes.
I remember in the early 80s and everything was acres. And I was a farming reporter then and everything was in acres, and suddenly it went to hectares. And I have no idea, no collaboration.
I still think in acres.
Yeah.
How many acres do you have? I have about...
I don't have any acres.
No, exactly. I have a postage stamp. But that was, you know...
But hectares, the only hectare I know was like Hector's house. There used to be a little animation thing on
as opposed
TV.
to hectare.
Hector's house.
Oh dear, yeah, but that'd be lovely, a green corridor. Bath is such a beautiful part of the world. And actually there's a lovely cycle path that you can go on from Bristol to Bath. Took me about 4 hours. It nearly killed me. But there is a little corridor there, and I think it's great to be promoting these little green corridors.
Yeah, absolutely, and knowing where they are. A little green corridor is Sherburn in Elmet. It's a village in the Selby district of North Yorkshire. It lies between York and Leeds. So we're out and about with Anna Riley. It's right on her patch as a reporter. And Anna, we've got some pictures of Sherburn here. If you'd sort of describe to us, you know, what it's like.
Good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. Yes, so the village has got a population of just under 10,000, but it's well known for the industry that actually surrounds it. So there's a large industrial estate that employs over 11,000 people, and it's on an old World War II airfield. So that brings in a lot of prosperity and money to the area, and it's also known for its aero club as well, which is one of the largest in the country. And if there's any bikers watching or listening to us now, it's also renowned for the Squires Bikers Cafe. And we're here this morning, we're knocking on people's doors, we're speaking to businesses and residents here to find out their take on the day's news. Now, if we just walk along, we can see there's a local butcher's here. They're open, we've been milling about, and we think, let's give them a knock on their door and see if they'll speak to us. So let's give them a knock and see if they'll speak to us this morning about what they think. What we're going to be talking about is the cost of living. It's a topic that's sadly not going away this week, and something that's going to stay with us a while, rising energy bills. Hello there, morning. We're GB News. Can we come in and have a word with you?
Of course you can, no problem.
Thank you very much. Can you introduce yourself for our listeners and our viewers, please?
Of course I will. My name's Graham Starkey, and I've run this business. I've been in this business for 41 years here. Local deliveries and everything, really. Yeah.
Definitely. It looks like you've got some juice. I don't know if we can have a look. You're well known here for your pies?
Yes, we make all our own pies, do all our own cooked meats. We're Gilder Q butchers. It's all English meat, all British meat. We do everything right for everybody and keep quality food.
Well, something that we're talking about is the rising cost of living and the impact that's having on people. Yeah. How have you seen that affect you and your customers?
I mean, it's massive, really. I mean, just before Christmas, for example, our lard was costing £12 a case. It's now costing £34 a case. It's gone up by 200%. Packaging has gone up ridiculous, by a lot of money. And it's not only the one thing; it's everything at once. You've got the national insurance rates going up. You've got power going up, power price for your power going up, fuel going up. Absolutely everything, and people just can't afford this. I mean, sectors moving forward.
Oh dear.
Mortgage rates.
I was really enjoying having a look around Graham's shop there and hearing what he has to say about various things, because, I mean, there is a real business. There's his pasties all made, and we often forget the preparation that people have to put in before they actually start a day's work. It just doesn't instantly happen. I mean, people think you and I just appear here
We woke up like this.
Where I've been here from 10 o'clock last night.
As we drive into work, it's always the bakers that you see that are open. It's sort of totally dead in London.
The ovens.
Come in, but the bakers are always open, and the butchers. So anyway, we will try and improve that link, and we will return to Anna Riley up in that little magical corner.
Sherburn in Elna is very good, except probably their Wi-Fi isn't super, which is a problem for rural areas, it has to be said.
Well, exactly. Places in central London, you can't get some decent Wi-Fi, so it's not surprising up there in Yorkshire. Look, we've got lots of other stories to talk about this morning. Later on in the programme, we're talking about why Scottish councils are cracking down on Airbnb. A lot of stories about Airbnb these days, aren't there? Seems to have changed.
What it is, you can hold it with the music. We're not ready to go to the just you can hold the music. What it is it's local authorities thinking, oh, here's something very successful. People are able to get on and manage themselves and make a little few quid on the side. We'll have a slice of that.
My engagement ring was, we call it the Airbnb ring, because my husband lived in Amsterdam when we were dating. And every time he came to visit me in the UK, he would put his flat up on Airbnb, and all the money he made from all the visits to come and see me, he eventually paid for my engagement ring.
He's a wise man, wise man.
Lovely little tale.
Yeah.
Thank you, Airbnb.
So, so that Airbnb, I mean, if you maybe find, here's a little source of income and this is good and this is going to help me out, but local authorities say, well, we're going to have a slice of that. Why are they coming down so heavily on Airbnbs? And what is the difference between an Airbnb and a B&B?
Well, it's totally self-catered. You don't get provided breakfast in an Airbnb. So it's just like a rental cottage without it being a rental cottage. Oh. You can have it just for one night or 2 nights as opposed to 2 weeks or whatever.
Okay.
I think that's great.
Your news, your views are our news. So do get in touch throughout today. You can tweet at GBNews. We're going to bring you the weather picture because it's certainly, there was a bit of sunshine over most of the country yesterday. I didn't see it.
Yeah, and a Friday forecast always more interesting than the rest of them because you find out, is it going to be nice for the weekend as well?
Well, it's going to be cold, I know that much. Here's Aidan McGivern.
Hello, good morning. Chilly start to the day, frost in places and a few fog patches, but otherwise plenty of dry and bright weather at first today before it turns more unsettled, especially in the north later on. High pressure still close by, but what we'll see through the next few days is the influence of that high will wane. It will sink to the south. Low pressure will increasingly dominate things further north. And that's why we've got a breezier start to the day for the north and northwest. Some outbreaks of rain here, cloud as well, frost and fog free. But otherwise, fog patches for the next few hours across some southern parts of England into parts of Wales. Eventually they'll lift, and then decent sunny spells for the Midlands, East Anglia, South East England by this afternoon. Otherwise, turning cloudier from the northwest. Temperatures in most places not far from average, but it does turn breezy. In fact, it turns increasingly windy in the north and northwest of Scotland as heavy rain moves in here. And that heavy rain persistent across the Northwest Highlands overnight tonight. It will add to about 80 millimetres in some of the wetter spots. Damp for some western hills and coasts elsewhere as the cloud thickens and lowers overnight. But because of the cloud, because of the breeze tonight, well, it's going to be a frost and fog-free start to the weekend. But it will be a grey start with a lot of cloud in the sky. Quite breezy through the day, wet and windy for Scotland, Northern Ireland, as well as Northern England, as this lively feature sinks south, bringing a spell of really quite gusty winds as it pushes through. And then blustery but bright for the northern half of the country, with showers following the main area of rain and cloud. But it stays cloudy in the south, but much milder, 12 or 13 Celsius here. A windy day then to come on Saturday, and wind stays the theme through the next few days. Sunday starts off relatively calm, but it turns increasingly windy, especially in the north later on.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
6:21 is the time. This is Breakfast in GB News with Eamonn and Isabel. Right now we're going to talk about Airbnbs. We were giving you a clue of that before the break. And the reason, Isabel, is?
Yeah, well, there are new government proposals in Scotland which will require short-term lets and holiday rentals to get a licence from their local council after residents there complained that they were being priced out of cities like Edinburgh in favour of tourist accommodation.
Not sure I understand that.
Well, what happens is people can't afford to live in the city centre because people are buying the properties, renting them out because it's more lucrative than rent, and locals have to move further and further out.
OK.
I think.
Here to explain that, our Scotland reporter, Davy Donaldson, who interviewed Fiona Campbell from the Association of Scotland's Self-Caterers for more information.
Fiona, obviously there's been changes to the short-term lets in Scotland. What is it? What's happened?
The Scottish Government has, after a 5-year discussion, decided to pass legislation that means that any short-term let will now have to apply for a short-term let licence. So that originally looked like it was going to encompass our colleagues over at Airbnb, but has now actually encompassed every single self-catering operator, every single bed and breakfast, some guest houses, everybody that's got a glamping pod, and so on and so forth. So it's become a huge thing for an enormous amount of the tourism sector in Scotland.
And how's that going to impact on the tourism sector?
It's going to have an incredibly detrimental impact on the tourism sector, whatever anybody tells you to the otherwise. For small tourism, for small accommodation providers in Scotland, this is going to have the most damaging impact. For small tourism accommodation providers that do not have a huge profit margin, just the simple point of having to pay a fractionally large license fee when they don't need to do so is going to be horrific, absolutely horrific. We don't need to do it. For those people that are on non-domestic rates, for those people that already comply with the existing health and safety legislation, this is just an unnecessary business expense at a time when we're still trying to recover from the pandemic, and we're all faced with huge hikes in all sorts of other business costs, including utilities, staffing, cleaning costs, and so on. It is an unnecessary cost, and it's one cost that the Scottish government had the ability to stop, but they chose not to.
Why do you say it's unnecessary?
It's unnecessary for legitimate businesses that already comply with all the health and safety legislation that already exists. They already comply with existing antisocial behaviour legislation. They comply with health and safety legislation. They pay their taxes appropriately. They do everything they're meant to do, and they are not impacting on the housing stock. And they're most certainly not puppy farmers. So that's why it's unnecessary. And that's why the legitimate small accommodation providers in Scotland are now absolutely furious and incredibly uncertain about the future of their businesses.
I mean, that's going to have an impact. You know, Edinburgh is obviously the most visited city in Scotland. That's going to have a huge impact. You've got the Fringe Festival, we've got massive, amounts of people coming to the city. So how's that going to impact in terms of being able to stay somewhere?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, the point of short-term lets, whether you're a self-caterer, a traditional self-caterer, or a bed and breakfast, or indeed a person that lets their property out as a home share to people to come in on a short-term basis during the Fringe, if we reduce the capacity of that sector, you're going to reduce the capacity of choice for those visitors in Scotland. And if you take yourself away from Edinburgh momentarily and think about the North Coast 500, for example, there aren't thousands of huge big hotels for people to stay in. The tourism economy in rural areas of Scotland relies on these small accommodation providers to underpin their tourism economy. And if you take those businesses away, which sure as damn it you will, because we're already getting evidence of people removing themselves from the sector on the basis of this decision, then we're going to not have that diverse, rich tourism fabric that we've always enjoyed as a Scottish tourism economy.
And it's also going to presumably push the price up. If there's less places to stay, then simple economics would suggest that the price would increase.
There's less places to stay. The fact is, if our costs go up, they're going to be passed down to the consumer. Are we going to be therefore competitive? We're already, as a nation, really negatively price competitive. This is only going to add to that. And any thought of introducing a tourist tax on top is just becoming the perfect storm for our tourism sector in Scotland. This isn't just about short-term lets. This is about the onward supply chain. This is about our guests that go and eat in restaurants and enjoy hospitality and go to visitor attractions and go and enjoy activities. All of those sectors are going to be fundamentally impacted by the legislation that was passed through government last week by the SNP and Green parties alone.
Why have they done it?
You would have to ask them that, because the policy objective has changed fundamentally over the last 5 years. Is it housing? Is it health and safety? Is it about stopping puppy farming? We actually don't know anymore, but fundamentally, we don't believe as a sector that this legislation is going to ameliorate any of the policy challenges that they think it's going to. What it's going to do is it's going to damage tourism in Scotland, and that's unforgivable.
OK, that's unforgivable to damage tourism in Scotland. One of my favourite places on earth, I have to say.
Mine too.
Always
fan.
Enjoy going
Always
there.
Always holidayed there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, love Scotland.
Yes, you and the Queen. You and the Queen always holiday there. Tweet at GB News, GBViews at gbnews.uk. Maybe you have an Airbnb. Maybe you're against them. Maybe you're for them. Let us know. Put it in the mix. We'll talk about it this morning.
Do you know what we've got next, though?
What?
Christopher Biggins is in the house. He's in the studio.
The thing is, you'll always hear him before you see him. He's there, he's reviewing the papers. Back with him right after this. Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News. It is 6:30. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel. We are live across the UK on both your TV and on your radio. Time to take a look at your newspaper front pages. The Independent is leading with our top story this morning, and that's the Foreign Secretary having to defend a government flight to Australia at a cost of £500,000. The Telegraph has a picture of the late comedian Barry Cryer, who sadly passed away at the age of 86. It also says the Treasury is looking to close a tax loophole that allows people to claim benefits for working from home. The Guardian is leading with a Treasury story too, saying the Chancellor Rishi Sunak's worried that the national insurance rise may not go ahead. The Mirror says the Palace is worried about the sex abuse allegations against Prince Andrew, which he denies. Donald Trump is pictured on the front of the Times this morning after he was filmed on a golf course yesterday where he called himself the 45th and 47th president. Is this a big hint that he will be running in 2024? The paper also says the US is concerned about Russian money in what they dub Londongrad. OK, time now to go through the papers. We're joined by larger-than-life Christopher Biggins, actor and, of course, General Goodfellow. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
And the columnist Emily Carver as well. Very good morning to you.
Thank you for having me.
It's the first time you've done breakfast with us, and I know
It
it's
is.
a godly hour, so we appreciate the
It
effort.
is ridiculous hour. How do you do this every day?
I don't know. It's a lot
It
of
looks so
makeup.
good.
Let's take a look, shall we, this morning at the front of the Mail. I mean, I should point out at this point, there's virtually a different story on the front of every paper.
Yeah.
So it's quite an interesting day for news.
I know. Well, this is very interesting because this is saying 600 Whitehall fat cats are paid over £150,000 a year. I think that Eamonn and I will probably join these fat cats if we could. It's a nice salary, isn't it?
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad at all. I mean, and the number of civil servants earning more than £150,000 a year has soared since the start of the pandemic, despite many of them working from home.
Nice work if you can get it.
Exactly. But also there are so many who... the Prime Minister earns 150,000. Of course, he's probably the lowest paid Prime Minister or head of state in the world. But anyway, that's what he earns. A lot more, earn a huge amount more. Like, for instance, the pay list is topped by the boss of the controversial HS2 project, who earns £625,000.
Public money.
Public money. And also a lot of the rail project people are on 150,000, including Network Rail. Now, I love the railway. I'm going to Birmingham when I finish this later on today, and on the train. But the trains have gone up enormously.
A fortune.
A fortune. I now know where this money's going.
Quite.
Into these rich cats.
Look, do we think then that we have fat cats in this country, or do you think, that we're talking about people like Sue Gray, who obviously is a very important role. Is this a fair salary in the sort of expensive world that we live in, or are they being overpaid?
I mean, it may well be, but we often see that there are council leaders, managers in the NHS, managers in various areas of the public sector who, as you say, are earning far more than the Prime Minister. And I do wonder whether that is a good use of our public money. Also, with HS2 has become such a gravy train. There are so many vested interests. I doubt that it will have the economic benefits that they said it will. And £625,000, that's a huge salary for us to be forking out. And I don't suppose it's worth it.
The question is there anything going to be done about this? And the reality is those salaries aren't going to change, even...
Of course they're not. I mean, if they've agreed to that salary, I mean, however many years ago, they had to be paid. I mean, if they were got rid of, they'd have a huge amount of money to be given.
The issue is whether a lot of them are on London waiting, and if they are now working from home, whether or not that should be taken away. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the argument is that if these very talented people, let's say if they're very talented and good at what they do, if they were in the private sector, perhaps they would be able to get an even larger salary. So perhaps we have to compete in order to get the best people. But I'm not sure that we decide salaries in the best way. I'm not sure where these numbers come from, how we come to these assumptions that someone is worth £625,000.
Yeah. Probably the person who's being paid £625,000 after that figure.
I think you might be right. Let's look at the front of the Express this morning. Boris's allies are saying don't repeat the Thatcher betrayal. And this is really... we've seen a lot of support being shored up for the Prime Minister in this kind of vacuum of time whilst we wait for this infamous Sue Gray report.
Yes, he's had a bit of time, hasn't he, to sort of rally the troops or to get the Boris allies out. Of course, the Daily Express has been one of the only papers really to support Boris throughout this whole scandal, throughout the sleaze allegations, throughout the party allegations. And they're saying that the Prime Minister's supporters are going around circulating an iconic Express front page, of course, which said, what have they done? And they're referring to what happened to Margaret Thatcher, of course, where members of the party ended up ousting her. And they're warning against that. Apparently, MPs are warning that we should not do the same thing to Boris Johnson.
They've got a point, haven't they? I mean, when you look who might succeed him, we've got Liz Truss this morning doing her explanation for being on a private plane with about as much charisma as... I don't want to say, but I mean,
no,
is
you're
that a
right.
fair point?
I think it is a fair point. I mean, thinking about this, with all this rubbish going on about Partygate, which is so annoying and aggravating.
Doesn't bother you?
Not at all. I mean, let the man have a drink.
Let them eat cake.
Exactly. They've been working hard, and, I know there are lots... I mean, I feel really desperately sorry for people who have suffered during the pandemic, who've lost people, weren't allowed to go to see their relatives in homes or hospitals, what have you. But, at the end of the day, it's a drink, and,
Well, the point is surely then that the rules were just ridiculous, weren't they? Just impossible for anyone to follow.
Absolutely. I agree totally with that. I mean, that was the real problem, I think. But, I mean, we've got to get on with life. I mean, it's ludicrous.
And do you think that's fair, or do you think that a lot of people have a problem with this? Because it isn't about cake. This isn't about perhaps some of the trivial ins and outs. It's about integrity. It's about setting the rules, one rule for you, one rule for us, and about a culture of lying.
Yeah, I do get that completely. I tweeted out a few days ago asking my followers, are you genuinely actually outraged by, you know, the party or the cake and so on? And a lot of people took my view that actually this isn't a big deal in the grand scheme of things and we need to get over it. But a lot of people are so angry about what they perceive to be double standards. And I do understand that. But I think the main lesson, as you say, Christopher, is to realise that these rules were never proportionate, that they were never justified, and that they were just nonsensical at times, impossible to keep.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to move on from that story because I know for one thing, GBNews viewers absolutely loathe Partygate as a story. Let's talk about the front of the Telegraph. They've picked up on this work from home loophole. I can't believe it. People could work from home for one day during the pandemic. They could claim
£125, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah. It's like, you know, if you're a member of the House of Lords, as long as you go in, you can claim a huge amount. Yeah, you go to the tea room and claim this money and then go home. I mean, I long to be a lord.
At least you're honest about it.
Well, exactly. I mean, you know, but I mean, I hoped I would do something better than most of them, but I know a lot of lords who go there and literally just to pick up the paycheck. I mean, I do think it's a huge amount of money for the Treasury to find, and it has to be. I mean, I think now that it's an absolute appalling system that we have still in place that people can work from home. I think people should go back to work because it's important in the environment. I mean, you and Eamonn could do this show from your homes, but what fun would it be?
Well, exactly.
No fun at all.
What about the sort of hybrid argument? I mean, lots of people saying there's no need for us all to be in the office all those hours, the long commutes and being, you know...
Yeah, but it's good once you get there. You meet people, you feed off people.
Some people hate their colleagues.
I think it's unfair on people just starting out in their career because you learn so much from the experience of people who are older than you in the workplace. That's true. And it's very easy for people who are established to work from home. They often have a better setup and so on. But, you know, younger people, they need to learn from that experience.
Yeah.
Of course.
But I think most people are going back to work now.
I hope
in general.
So. I do hope so.
Yeah, well, those that do probably will find they get promoted more quickly because, as you say, it
That's
is
true,
about those bonds being made. OK, we'll stay with the kind of financial theme and Treasury concerns. Emily, you picked this from the front of The Guardian. Lots of talk about whether or not this national insurance hike is going to go ahead. I think, reading the sort of mood music at the moment, that it could well end up being shelved. What's The Guardian's take on it?
Well, The Guardian's saying that the PM is refusing to confirm whether it will rise. So they're hovering over this sort of, we're not sure whether it's going to go ahead or not. I think that the Prime Minister probably should rethink this national insurance rise because it may well be that many of those in the Tory backbenches who are furious with him can be sort of, you know, placated by this because it's one of the fault lines in the Conservative Party, isn't it? People are accusing the Prime Minister of not being a proper Conservative, of not being a free marketeer, of being a big tax, big spend leader. So this could show his party that he's not that man, that he is a Conservative.
This was a really big policy.
It was a huge policy.
In the autumn, and this was, you know, billed as being the way we were going to sort out social care, and this was going to be Boris Johnson's legacy. We're not going to sort that out now. I mean, perhaps the NHS is even in a worse situation than it was pre-pandemic, and borrowing's gone down. We're not borrowing as much as we were during the pandemic. Perhaps we might be able to afford it.
Well, it's a lovely thought. I mean, I want so much to give the National Health Service everything. I mean, I've had 2 major operations in the last year. I'm like Bionic Man sitting here. I've got a new knee, which has been fantastic, and I had a new valve put into my heart. And the National Health Service is wonderful because I gave up my insurance because it was so expensive. And if you wait and you can afford to wait, they do eventually look after you superbly.
But it sounds like you've had a good experience, but a lot of people who are using the NHS now are finding that the waiting times are just obscene. People are waiting months and months and months for treatment, you know, waiting times when you go into A&E and so on. It's clear that the NHS needs some kind of reform. But as you said, government borrowing isn't where we expected it to be. The finances are in a better shape. So I think there is room for the government to scrap this NI rise. So I don't think it's going to have any benefit. It's going to, you know, it could potentially cost jobs.
Also, you know, everybody is going through such a bad time. I mean, the electricity bills that...
Totally.
I mean, I'm just horrified every time someone mentions it, what it's going to be like.
No, I know.
Because we don't know the actual amount, but it seems like it's going to be astronomical.
Yeah.
And not only that, food, you know, going to supermarkets, everything is going up. So we need as much help as we can get.
Yeah, OK. Well, and I just wanted to pick up on the point about borrowing and, you know, whether or not, as you say, what really annoys me, that's what my point was trying to make, was we get really annoyed as the media when someone refuses to confirm or deny something. And I think it's quite sensible because we criticise them if they then do a U-turn. It's fair enough, he's just taking his time to decide what he wants.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we do have a go at the government when they U-turn, but it's often to then proceed with a more popular policy.
Yeah.
So is that a problem? Are they listening? Are they listening to different voices?
Thank you very much. We've gone through the papers this hour. We'll have some more funny ones in the next hour. It got very serious this time.
Yes.
Eamonn will make us all laugh with you next hour.
Will he?
We're going to talk about the Winter Olympics. I can't believe it's already coming around this week. Of course, 1 week to go until the kick-off in Beijing. Team GB athletes are on their way, arriving on Tuesday. And among them are sisters Izzy and Zoe Atkin, who live in the United States, but are representing Team GB at skiing events. And our reporter Ellie Costello has caught up with them ahead of their flight.
Sisters Izzy and Zoe Atkin have been skiing together since they were children. With a British father, they've now both been selected to represent Team GB at the Winter Olympics in Beijing. It hasn't been an easy run-up for Izzy, who, 7 weeks out from the Games, was involved in a skiing accident.
I just fell directly on my left hip, so broke my pelvis and have not skied since then. It's definitely going to be very tight in terms of, like, fractures normally take 6 to 8 weeks to heal, and this Friday will be 6 weeks. So it'll definitely be pushing it, like hitting jumps and rails, and that's Olympic slopestyle course.
And how much of your training has it kind of knocked out?
A lot.
All of
it. I was supposed to be, you know, this whole January really just focusing on training and apart from doing the X Games, but that's still, So a lot of training time I've lost, which is definitely a bummer. I'm not going to be able to do, you know, the run that I had planned. But even if I just get the chance, if I'm able to go at this point, I will be really happy.
Izzy's younger sister Zoe is just 19, and this is her first Olympics.
I'm really excited because it's been such a big dream for so long, and watching my sister go to the Olympics and win a medal was really inspiring, and I'm really excited to have the opportunity to represent Team GB at the Olympics this year.
What would it mean to the two of you to get to go to an Olympics together as sisters?
It would be a dream come true. Obviously, when I was growing up, our sport wasn't in the Olympics, at least when I was very young and like just getting into skiing. So I never really expected that it was something I could do. And then I obviously, when I went in Pyeongchang, it was such an amazing experience. It was so different from anything any competition I had ever competed in before. And so just to get to experience that and be there with like my best friend, would just be like incredible. Obviously, I know it's going to be like this Olympics will definitely be a little different, the COVID restrictions that China has in place, but it would still be cool to just have someone that I like love and trust and part of my family there with me.
So what are your hopes for Winter Olympics 2022?
It's been such a dream for so long that I'm really just excited to go, and I really just want to enjoy the experience and feel the vibe of the Olympics. But I also really would like to land a run, especially with some new tricks that I've been working on. So it'll be a new run.
A medal? Do we not want to jinx that?
I mean, it would be nice, but I'd like to say that I want to land my run and then we'll see what happens after that.
Ellie Costello, GB News.
So the Beijing Winter Olympics in 1 week's time. But do you like these Olympics or these Winter Games any other time of the year? This is my point.
What? Do you mean, how can you have the Winter Olympics any other?
Winter Games, or people say, "Oh, I love athletics, I love show jumping," but they never watch it for 4 years.
2 weeks, yeah.
That's enough with everybody. But anyway, good luck to those ladies there. We're going to talk about the highway code now. We're all supposed to know lots about it, but very few people do. From tomorrow, there are going to be 8 new rules, 49 updates. It apparently provides stronger protection for pedestrians and cyclists, and it comes into force. And very few drivers are aware of what these are. I think we may well be 2 of those drivers. Here's Tracy Benson. Tracy's head of serious injury at Slater Gordon. Tracy, good morning to you.
Good morning.
So, Tracy, you carried out the research. Drivers' awareness on the highway code. Are you disturbed by this?
Well, yes, there's 50% of people, actually more than 50% of people, who are not aware of the forthcoming changes.
Okay.
Sorry?
I'm sorry. Carry on, as you were. Listen, I just want to know, because it's introducing this concept of hierarchies, and
on the road?
On the road. So now, pedestrians top of the tree, and then cyclists, and then cars. So if you're turning into a road, which happens to me a lot around where I live, pedestrians on the phone or with their headphones in, totally unaware of the cars, step out without looking. It's actually their right of way. You now have to brake and let the pedestrians go without tutting and rolling your eyes, which is what I do at the moment.
That's right. So that's the most significant rule change in relation to pedestrians at junctions. So if you're turning into or out of a junction and there's a pedestrian waiting, then you are supposed to now stop and let them cross. Obviously, if they're not paying attention, that could cause confusion. But the general rule is you're obliged to let a pedestrian cross.
If you don't, you're liable as a driver. If there is an accident with a pedestrian now and they've stepped out in front of your car, the onus is now on the driver.
It's not quite as simple as that, but it would be unhelpful for the driver if you haven't, because you're effectively not following the highway code by keeping an eye out for pedestrians and stopping for them. So if there is a collision, there's probably going to be a presumption of guilt there that you would then have to explain why you didn't stop and see them.
Yeah, so Tracy, you're expecting a big upturn in work, stuff that's going to keep you guys busy because people are going to be in a bit of a state of confusion. What would you recommend to all of us? I mean, now that you're a pedestrian, you're involved in the highway code as well, but for drivers and cyclists, is there some sort of top-up course, or where do we get a copy of the highway code?
Well, the idea behind it's supposed to make the roads safer by giving everyone a greater responsibility. And it's supposed to be changing the general culture of respectfulness on the road. It is a driver's responsibility, or any road user's responsibility, to keep up to date with the highway code. But it's all online. The highway code has a Facebook page, a Twitter page. There's nothing you can't find about it online.
Ignorance, no defence in law, is it? There's always that reminder that the responsibility is on the drivers. Roads have changed, though, haven't they, so much in the last decade? And I suppose that's what's behind these changes. So many more, not only more cars, but also more bicycles, more scooters, as you say, pedestrians in crowded cities as well. The idea is to try and regulate that kind of collision of all these different people. And bikes now, I believe, are supposed to be in the middle of the road as opposed to the side. Is that correct?
No, they're not supposed to be in the middle. They can be in the middle if that's where they feel the safest. But as soon as they feel comfortable and they're happy that everyone can see them, they should be moving over to the left and let vehicles pass them. But on particular types of road, narrow roads or whatever, if they feel that they need to be in the middle to be seen, then that's where they're allowed to be.
Wouldn't a more simple way of keeping us all up to date, Tracy, for us all to resit our driving tests every 10 years or so?
Well, possibly at least the theory test.
Yeah. Yeah, but I do think just the practicalities as well. I mean, we can all benefit. We could all be better drivers.
Have you ever been on a speeding awareness course?
Never had a speeding ticket in my life.
Couple.
Well,
And,
what does that say?
And after doing them,
Mm-hmm.
I have come away thinking everyone should be made to do that. It was a really, really positive thing. Really reminded me about all of the changes. And
but what you're saying is there's no point passing your test at 18 and then never, ever revisiting why you're on the road and how you're on the road. Tracy raised a term there. She's talking about how the use of the roads has changed. And it's now about, I think I'm right in saying, Tracy, it's about all of us sharing the road. It's not about using the road, it's about sharing the road.
That's right. So the thinking behind the new rule that creates the hierarchy is that it's to create a more respectful and considerate culture of safe road use. So previously, I think the road belonged to the driver and the pedestrian belonged to the pavement belonged to the pedestrian. And so it's just a real shift in that to try and encourage people to walk more and to cycle more.
Yeah, OK. Tracy Benson, appreciate that. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. Tracy's head of serious injury at the law firm Slater Gordon. Thank you very much indeed for that. So it's just making you all aware that from tomorrow there will be 8 new rules and 49 updates which provide stronger protection for pedestrians and cyclists in the highway code.
Yeah. Anything that makes the road safer has to be a good thing. Just make sure that you're all up to speed because, as we were saying, ignorance is no defence. If you get into trouble and you don't know the changes, you'll be in trouble.
Did you pass first time?
I passed 10 days after my first test.
So how does that work out?
I took another one 10 days later.
You're lucky you
I
got it.
basically got a major pulling out of the test centre. It was just because I didn't leave enough space from a car but everything else was perfect. So I just got on a waiting list. And as soon as someone cancelled, I hopped back in and I passed second time.
That's good.
What about you?
Anyway, the time
how many times did it take
7
you?
minutes.
I sense a story here. How many times?
Higher than
4?
Higher
5? No way.
That's because there was discrimination.
Oh, yeah?
It's because the driving tests are obviously in favour of women.
Oh, come on.
They obviously are, all the time.
What?
It's such a sexist test. Men are discriminated in their driving tests.
Maybe it's something to do with women being better drivers.
It's just to do with this stereotypical image that men are more gung-ho and testosterone
Right, here we go. This is our talking point for the morning. You can feel the keyboards, all the ladies.
It's easier
drivers, right?
easier for a woman, or it certainly was in the past, to pass
To
a driving
multitask, I agree.
pass a driving test. What was your first car?
I've never heard anything. It was a 1.0 litre Polo with only 4 gears in white, 3-door.
Yeah, very good. I had a Fiat 124, which you have no idea what I'm talking about. It looked like a Lada.
A whatie?
A Lada. Do you not know what a Lada
Where you
is?
store your
Do you know where a kid the way a child draws a car?
Oh, yeah.
That was a Lada.
Okay.
Looked like that.
Okay.
You actually don't know what a Lada is.
A larder to me is where you store your cool things at home.
A larder.
A larder.
A Lada, L-A-D-A.
No, I'm going to Google it. Okay.
And then there was a Polish version, which was called a Polski Fiat, which was a collaboration. Lada bought the rights of the Fiat 124 and then made a harder body over it to withstand the Russian
to drive, because I have to say my
winters.
Polo was so easy to drive.
Well, mine was a Fiat, but it was a Fiat worse than death. It leaked water and it rusted a lot.
Were you a boy racer once you did pass your test?
No, but I got go faster stripes on
right,
the
so
car.
you had all the trimmings, but actually you were a bit of a cautious driver.
No.
Oh, right.
I was in the time of Starsky and Hutch, you know, where they had that Ford Torino and you wanted to go faster stripes and whatever. And cars and TV programmes were just amazing. You had the Capri and the Professionals or the Granada with the Sweeney and things like that. I always think a good cop show has to have a good car.
Yeah, good fast car. I love it. Right, let us know your thoughts. Are ladies better than men at passing their driving test?
No,
It's
not the ladies. It's not their fault. It's the testers discriminate against men.
Right, we're being hurried up to move on. Time to take a break.
Thank God.
See you in a moment.
Hello, good morning. Chilly start to the day, frost in places and a few fog patches, but otherwise plenty of dry and bright weather at first today before it turns more unsettled, especially in the north later on. High pressure still close by, but we'll see through the next few days as the influence of that high will wane. It will sink to the south. Low pressure will increasingly dominate things further north. And that's why we've got a breezier start to the day for the north and northwest. Some outbreaks of rain here, cloud as well, frost and fog free. But otherwise, fog patches for the next few hours across some southern parts of England into parts of Wales. Eventually they'll lift, and then decent sunny spells for the Midlands, East Anglia, South East England by this afternoon. Otherwise, turning cloudier from the northwest. Temperatures in most places not far from average, but it does turn breezy. In fact, it turns increasingly windy in the north and northwest of Scotland as heavy rain moves in here. And that heavy rain persistent across the Northwest Highlands overnight tonight. It will add to about 80 millimetres in some of the wetter spots. Damp for some western hills and coasts elsewhere as the cloud thickens and lowers overnight. But because of the cloud, because of the breeze tonight, well, it's going to be a frost and fog-free start to the weekend. But it will be a grey start with a lot of cloud in the sky, quite breezy through the day, wet and windy for Scotland, Northern Ireland, as well as Northern England, as this lively feature sinks south, bringing a spell of really quite gusty winds as it pushes through. And then blustery but bright for the northern half of the country, with showers following the main area of rain and cloud. But it stays cloudy in the south, but much milder, 12 or 13 Celsius here. A windy day then to come on Saturday, and wind stays the theme through the next few days. Sunday starts off relatively calm, but it turns increasingly windy, especially in the north later on.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Treasury concerns the Prime Minister may ditch the national insurance rise.
Good morning. It's 7 o'clock on Friday, the 28th of January. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
These are the headlines you're waking up to. The Chancellor has apparently signalled to colleagues the £12 billion tax hike on national insurance must go ahead.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister refused to commit to the pledge while visiting Wales. What do you want the Prime Minister to do? Let us know, GBViews at gbnews.uk.
Nightclubs are to reopen and the rule of 6 ends today in Wales as the First Minister confirms a move back to alert level 0. Face masks will remain mandatory in shops and public transport.
And we're in Sherburn in Elmet today for On Your Doorstep. It's a village that's located in the Selby district of North Yorkshire. That's between York and Leeds. And our reporter Anna Riley may well be knocking on your door this morning, so make sure you're ready.
Remember, your views can make it here on our news. Please do let us know. We're live across the whole of the UK. We're on your TV, we're on your radio. And so whether you're watching in Lincolnshire or maybe you are in Scotland, you can be in Wales or Northern Ireland, we will welcome you. We particularly prefer you if you used to be bored. We used to be watching, you know, Sky News or BBC News or whatever it is, GM TV, whatever it's called these days. But anyway, everyone's welcome here.
Defectors are welcome.
It's a big family, all very, very welcome. One of the social media questions we threw out there today was asking you, was the Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, right to use a government plane at a cost of £500,000 to you, the taxpayer? One would have thought that's what it's there for. It's there to use that. But sort of things that you guys are saying about this. This is somebody by the lovely name of Auto Monkey. It's our government plane with our British paintwork on it. This is a very true point, yeah. It's done to promote the UK in a post-Brexit world, seeking new trade deals, also correct. Would you rather it was sat in a hangar, gathering dust and complaining it was a waste of money? Very good point. Or used for its intended purpose? That's the point. Why buy it if you're not going to use it?
Or would it be better to save that money and not increase taxes so much? That's the other argument. Let's see what Shelley says. She says, I think not tone deaf doesn't cut it. People taking real-life pay cuts from national insurance hikes and cost rises to pay back the debt accrued from those mindless lockdowns, and old Liz can travel in luxury at the already poor's expense. It's a disgrace.
But here's a good point from Lisa B. And she says, what sort of image is created if a minister steps off a scheduled flight, an EasyJet, a Ryanair, whatever it happens to be, and then spends a couple of hours going through customs and collecting luggage? Yeah, look, there's not these arguments about what the French president does or the German chancellor does or how they get around, or the American president, but there's not one, but two. He's got Air Force One and Air Force Two, which go in tandem everywhere together.
Well, I guess it's just the climate at the moment, isn't it? People are unhappy with the government. We're also seeing increased bills and increased taxes. So people are venting their frustration, arguably.
Yeah. A report in The Guardian this morning says that the Chancellor is worried that the Prime Minister may not go ahead with the planned national insurance hike worth about £12 billion.
Well, for the latest, let's cross to Downing Street to our political correspondent Tom Harwood to talk more about this. Tom, if that happens, that will represent a really massive U-turn from the government on what really was a key policy launched in the autumn.
It certainly would be. Back in October, the government announced this as a flagship policy to try and fix, in tandem, the NHS backlog and the social care crisis. The raise in national insurance, raising it both for employees and employers, would raise around £12 billion. But since then, we've seen a significant pinch on people's incomes anyway. Inflation is running at the highest it's been in 30 years. And interestingly, a number of Conservative MPs who over the course of the last week have been having meetings with the Prime Minister and with the sort of core group of supporters of the Prime Minister have been raising this particular policy as something that is perhaps not wise to go ahead with this year, given the pinch on everyone's incomes. A very interesting reason why this is being raised is that this measure itself, according to the Treasury Select Committee, could be inflationary. The Treasury Select Committee came out with a report suggesting that if employers have to pay higher national insurance, how will they fund it? They're likely to raise prices in shops. It could not only take money away from people's pockets, but also raise prices in shops. And that would be a particular pinch right now in this year of all years. And there's a reason why some MPs, former Cabinet Minister Robert Jenrick, for example, but also Mel Stride, the chair of the Treasury Select Committee, are saying we should not go ahead with this rise this year, is because the economy is doing a lot better. the latest OBR forecast suggests that actually tax receipts anyway without this tax rise are £13 billion higher than they were expecting back in October. So that's more money actually than the tax rise would bring in anyway, potentially because so many more people are in work, because the economy is growing faster than was expected. There's actually more money to fund that NHS backlog without the need to raise this tax this year.
This is a complex one, and it's very Machiavellian. Who calls the shots on this finally? Does Sunak say this is going to happen, or does Boris Johnson say this will happen or not happen? Because in a way, it will be such an unpopular move. Who will get the blame for it? The Prime Minister, because it happens on his watch if it goes ahead?
Well, interesting, if we think back to October, there were reports of disagreements between the Chancellor and the Prime Minister, but the other way round. The reports were that the Prime Minister wanted to go ahead with this tax rise to fix the social care crisis, and the Chancellor was more cautious about it, whereas now it seems that the Prime Minister is the one wavering, whereas the Chancellor is saying this needs to go ahead. It's a bit of a flip there in terms of those two positions. I think, interestingly, neither of those two men are the big drivers of a potential change in policy now. What is the big driver are those backbench Conservative MPs who are worried about their constituents, worried about the cost of living, and want the Prime Minister to govern in a more Conservative way. Potentially the weakness of the Prime Minister over the last few weeks, his needs to get his backbenchers on side to avoid those letters going in to Sir Graham Brady. Potentially he needs to now appease those backbenchers, and one of those demands that those backbenchers are making is to not raise taxes on their constituents.
Tom, thank you very much indeed. Keep us up to date, keep us in the picture. That's the story leading with us this morning.
Now the headlines, and COVID restrictions have been lifted in Wales. The rule of 6 has been scrapped. People no longer have to social distance, and nightclubs are finally back open. COVID passes will still be required, though, in cinemas, theatres and concert halls.
More than 1 million university students will be hit by up to 10 days of strikes next month. Lecturers at nearly 70 institutions are planning to take action over what they describe as beyond disgraceful pay, conditions and pensions.
The government's pledging to make British Sign Language a recognised language. It's hoped a new bill will improve access for deaf people and promote its use during public announcements.
The National Trust has revealed plans to create a new habitat for wildlife.
The so-called Green Corridor will link the centre of Bath to the surrounding countryside, running through 40 hectares of meadowland. It's the first of 2 corridors that the Trust will create by 2030 in England, Wales and Northern Ireland.
It's the big garden bird watch this weekend. We're being asked to help do a head count of our feathered friends. The RSPB wants to spend each of us to spend an hour bird watching and recording the species we see.
More than 1 million people took part in the annual Snapshot survey during lockdown last year. I would do that, but an hour is a bit long. I could do it for 20 minutes max.
Would you get the kids to do it with you?
Yes, because we have a little robin that comes very close to our back door, and the kids have named him Jimmy. Don't ask me why.
Jimmy the robin.
But the excitement when, oh, Mummy, we've seen Jimmy.
Jimmy appears.
Little Jimmy, yeah. So we look out for him. But
we've got a
woodpecker.
We get a woodpecker and something that looks like a woodpecker, which Ruth knows what it is. I don't know what it is.
A jay?
Yeah, I think that's what you said it was. How did you know that?
I know my birds. I'm a bit of a twitcher.
There you are.
Weirdly.
We love to get out and about and, just get to hear about places that you wouldn't normally get to hear. This morning, it's Sherburn in Elmet. You're going to say, where is that? Well, it's a village in the Selby district of North Yorkshire, and it lies between York and Leeds.
That's right. So, Anna, tell us more about Sherburn.
Good morning, Isabel and Eamonn. Yes, Sherburn, it is a little village, but it's actually known for the industry that surrounds it. It's got one of the largest industrial estates. It's home to famous names like Eddie Stobart and Sainsbury's, and it actually brings in more people to work around there from other areas and that actually live here in this village. And the industrial estate, it's on an old World War II airfield. And speaking of airfields as well, the village is also known for its airfield airfield. Sherburn Aero Club runs it. It's one of the largest in the country. And another fact for you, if you're a biker, motorbiker, watching or listening to us this morning, it's also known for Squire's Cafe. And we've come to Sherburn this morning to knock on people's doors and find out what they think to the news story of the day. Now, Penny's Cafe here is opened up, so we're going to give them a knock on the door and see if we can have a little chat about the morning's news story. Good morning. It's GB News. Are we right to pop in and have a word? Thank you. It looks lovely in here. Lovely and warm as well. It's chilly outside. I love your decor as well. You've got some great pieces. Is it really? Oh, lovely. So, introduce yourself for our viewers and listeners.
Right, I'm Penny. I'm the owner of Penny's Deli and Coffee Shop and Takeaway. Been here 20 years, just providing hot and cold food, outside catering, cakes and everything for the local community and surrounding
areas. And I can see you've got a fantastic cake here.
Baby shower cakes for this weekend.
And you've got a gorgeous selection. Anyone with a sweet tooth.
All homemade cakes.
Delicious. So we can see in front of us. We've got, what's this?
That's a tiffin, homemade tiffin. Caramel slice, shortbreads, cakes.
And I've got my eye on
crispy
these
cake.
as well, the crispy cake.
That is our best seller.
A crispy cake. And your savouries look delicious.
Yeah, homemade quiches.
Making me hungry.
We can serve you a bacon sandwich as well.
Oh, delicious. Well, what we've been talking about today is the cost of living that's on the rise. And I'm just wondering how that's impacted you.
Well, as it's rising rapidly now, it's impacted us that we've had to increase our prices. We've managed to stay 3 years without doing that. But obviously, we have to pass the cost on slightly. Because of the increase in our bills and stock and availability of stock. It's been a bit of a nightmare for the last couple of months, to be fair, getting hold of all our boards, boxes, any packaging and things like that we've struggled with.
So is that like a supply issue that you've had?
Supply issue. Obviously it must be down to increase in fuel and other cost implications, but we've managed to get through. We just diversify basically.
And with this sort of coming just as we're all getting back on our feet after the pandemic, what's that been like for business?
It's been hard work. We managed to keep open throughout the pandemic, other than the first 3 weeks. We just diversified to takeaway, delivering, cakes, afternoon teas, cream teas, anything anybody asked us to do, we just managed to do. So I worked on my own for the majority of the time for a good 9-10 months. But other than that, anything we've been asked to do, we've done for the local community because it's been expanding throughout this period as well. And any government grants that we've got, we've actually refurbed our outside seating area and developed that. So obviously we had that as well.
And with going to the takeaways, you said that's diversifying. Has that boosted business in a way for you?
It has, yeah. Predominantly prior to COVID, we were 85% coffee shop. Now we're about 50-50. We do really well with the takeaway side because we have got, like I say, a lot of new people living in the area who have been working from home, come in for the lunches or just for a walk around and pick a sandwich or a cake or a coffee as they've been doing that. So, yeah.
And another thing I spied next to this lovely cake, we can see an award here. It says it's in recognition of outstanding volunteering during the COVID pandemic, and that's been sponsored by a local councillor. Tell us why you got that award.
Well, I believe I got that award because at the beginning of the pandemic I did a lot of the face masks, the airbands when I weren't at work, and we just helped out providing afternoon teas and what have you to anybody that couldn't get out, or any food to anybody that couldn't get out, really, and just helped in the same way as quite a lot of people in the village that just came together. So, yeah.
Some great community spirit then, yeah. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Penny, and I know if you can see the cakes behind us, you definitely want to try one, Eamonn and Isabel.
We do, and to all the volunteers, whatever, thank you very much indeed. That's excellent. Penny, thanks for letting us in your cafe. Tell Penny she's making us very hungry. We could do with a snack. Anna, leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Look, very, very shortly, we're going to be talking about a story you may have heard, but probably haven't heard enough about this week. This happened on Monday, and it's about a petition. A lot of people are signing a petition for a driver, a hero driver accused of murder. He's going to be speaking, his lawyer's going to be speaking to us very, very shortly about this. This guy saw stabbing taking place in Maida Vale in London, and what did he do? Instead of driving on or whatever, he ran his car into the guy with the knife. However, he's now in trouble. He's now in trouble. We're going to be telling you all about that very, very shortly.
Yeah, but before that, we're going to be talking about another really important story. Yesterday, the announcement was made that COVID restrictions from care homes will be eased on Monday. It means no limit on the amount of visitors allowed, and it will cut self-isolation periods and a reduction in outbreak management periods.
OK, let's go to Simon Wells to find out all about this, because he's going to tell us how this will impact on his care home. Simon, who's deputy manager at St Cecilia's care home in Scarborough. Simon, good morning to you. Does anything really change for you, my friend?
It does, Eamonn. It gives us a whole new, different set of things that we have to put in place. We aren't quite sure yet how we're going to manage it. Obviously, there's still staffing issues in the care home sector, but we certainly welcome back the visitors, although we need to do it with a little bit of caution to ensure we continue to protect our residents as best as we can.
What was the reaction yesterday? Because over the pandemic, we've spoken to so many families who've been separated by what a lot of people have seen as really inhumane restrictions, particularly around those that, in some cases, in care homes are end of life. And you must have so many happy families being able to finally be reunited in a way that they haven't until now.
Yeah, it's been, everyone knows it's been a torrid time. Everyone knows it's been quite horrific in care homes. It's certainly been well publicised, but we have managed it relatively well, we believe, to try to negate the effect that it's had on our residents. So it's not been particularly bad for them. But there's obviously going to be some problems with the residents, especially those with dementia that don't understand. But to welcome visitors back will be fantastic. But we still need to remain quite cautious because COVID is still very prevalent. And whether it's been too much too soon, we'll wait and see. But fingers crossed everything goes according to plan.
But Simon, what if it doesn't go according to plan? What if this is a false dawn? What if this is too much too soon? It's okay people to say, oh, this keeps businesses open, it gets people back to work, it does this, it opens up the economy and whatever. But you're a separate part of life, and you're in that protected sort of vocational area. It could be too much too soon for you, for your care homes, and most importantly for the residents inside.
It may do, Eamonn, but a lot of our residents, those that have been end of life, can I just say that we haven't stopped people visiting at the end of life. We think it's really important that there's that humane side to us, in that we didn't stop people coming in, we managed it. We allowed people to come in to hold their loved one's hand at the end of life because that's extremely important. We've had lots of praise from visitors and from from everybody else to say that they were quite pleased with the way that we managed everything, and that people got in to see their residents. I'm not saying it's too much too soon. What I'm saying is it was very much that it was said on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever it came out, and then that's for next Monday. Everything else seems to have sort of been pre-planned to give us chance to get things in place and our own guidelines in place, and so that we can discuss it with our residents and with our residents' families to ensure that we do it in a safe way.
Okay.
And it may well be a false dawn. You're right.
Well, we hope it's not. Simon, great talking to you. Simon Walls is the clinical lead at St Cecilia's Care Home in Scarborough. Thank you very much indeed, and good luck and congratulations on all the good work you do. Thank you very much.
Well, up next, we'll be talking about that story we were talking about just before, the hero or the villain. We'll be talking to the lawyer at the centre of it after the break. But first, here's your weather.
Hello, good morning. A chilly start to the day, frost in places and a few fog patches, but otherwise plenty of dry and bright weather at first today before it turns more unsettled, especially in the north later on. High pressure still close by, but what we'll see through the next few days is the influence of that high will wane. It will sink to the south. Low pressure will increasingly dominate things further north. And that's why we've got a breezier start to the day for the north and northwest. Some outbreaks of rain here, cloud as well, frost and fog free. But otherwise, fog patches for the next few hours across some southern parts of England into parts of Wales. Eventually they'll lift, and then decent sunny spells for the Midlands, East Anglia, South East England by this afternoon. Otherwise, turning cloudier from the northwest. Temperatures in most places not far from average, but it does turn breezy. In fact, it turns increasingly windy in the north and northwest of Scotland as heavy rain moves in here. And that heavy rain persistent across the northwest Highlands overnight tonight. It will add to about 80 millimetres in some of the wetter spots. Damp for some western hills and coasts elsewhere as the cloud thickens and lowers overnight. But because of the cloud, because of the breeze tonight, well, it's going to be a frost and fog-free start to the weekend. But it will be a grey start with a lot of cloud in the sky, quite breezy through the day, wet and windy for Scotland, Northern Ireland, as well as Northern England, as this lively feature sinks south, bringing a spell of really quite gusty winds as it pushes through. And then blustery but bright for the northern half of the country, with showers following the main area of rain and cloud. But it stays cloudy in the south, but much milder, 12 or 13 Celsius here. A windy day then to come on Saturday, and wind stays the theme through the next few days. Sunday starts off relatively calm, but it turns increasingly windy, especially in the north later on.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
The time is 25 minutes past 7. You're watching and listening to GB News with Eamonn and Isabel at breakfast. I'm going to tell you now about a big online petition which thousands of you have signed. And this was a petition to stop a driver in Maida Vale in London in Monday who ran his car into a man with a knife who fatally stabbed his partner. And the driver killed this guy with the knife. The idea was that in case the guy would have turned on the rest of the people in this busy street and whatever it is, was he a hero? Was he a criminal? the long and the short is he's facing criminal charges now.
Yeah, so let's bring in the lawyer for the driver. That is Mohammed Akunji. A very warm welcome to the programme. This is obviously a terrible incident that happened shockingly in broad daylight during school drop-off on a Monday morning in a busy part of London. Your client says he's been living a living nightmare ever since. Just talk us through how he got involved in this whole case.
Well, I mean, he was driving to work on a Monday morning. Whilst he was in some traffic, he saw an attacker on the pavement attacking a young woman with a knife. He saw him stab the lady a number of times and then turn to wield the knife in the direction of other passers-by who had tried to intervene. When he had an opportunity to, when the traffic moved out of his way, he saw an opportunity to use his vehicle to try and save the woman and the other passers-by from further attack. And he took that opportunity to try and put his vehicle between the attacker and others. And unfortunately, he ended up running over the attacker.
Mohammed, could I ask you, does that then make your client a hero or a murderer?
Well, it makes him a person who was acting fully in accordance with the law, which was in the self-defense of another, in fact, others. And we say that's quite squarely and quite obviously a person who's a hero, who's put himself in between harm's way, somebody who is effecting a savage attack on people. And he put himself between that person and innocent people.
So just run us through then what the police are thinking here, because they've referred themselves, which is, normal practice in these kinds of incidents, to an independent watchdog for their assessment of this. But they haven't dropped the charges against your client.
Well, my client, Abraham, he hasn't been arrested. He hasn't been charged. He has been arrested. So he's now on bail, and he's been asked to return in late February. What we say, and his contention is that he doesn't need to be under arrest facing potential charges for murder himself. He's already cooperated quite fully with the police and the authorities, fully intends to do so. It's just it would be more appropriate, we say, in the circumstances, that he is treated as a witness to these events rather than as a suspect himself.
Yeah. To a lot of us watching here today, I think we say to ourselves, what would I have done in a similar situation? And I think most people, as demonstrated by the petition that is online, would have said, thank goodness there are men, there are people like your client who would have had a go. The trouble is the law is quite complex on this, and as a lawyer you understand the sensitivities, but the police aren't really keen on have-a-go heroes, are they?
Well, I think the problem is that the police are giving us a message to the general public in this country, which is that if you do have a go, you're attuned to your civic duty, you're attuned to your moral compass, then what may come of that is not just the trauma of dealing with these events, but it may be that you have to face criminal sort of procedures coming your way yourself. And I think the optics are all wrong on this. I think it's important that our police encourage us to be lawful citizens and that we step in order to stop crime from happening if we think it's safe to do so.
Folks listening to this and watching at home, we just want to say to you, if you've got a view on this, are you in favour of have-a-go heroes? Are you thankful that there are such people? Or do you say, no, the man should have been left on the high street with a knife to do what he wanted until the police arrived? GBViews at gbnews.uk, or you can tweet at GBnews on this one. We'll be interested in reflecting your opinions on this.
Look, Mohammed, there will be some concerns from the authorities, I suppose, about the message this gives for vigilantes. And I've covered as a reporter a number of stories involving vigilantes. Let me tell you, when a mob gets angry about something, it can be very alarming. I was on a council estate where people found out that there was a paedophile living there and they were trying to break down the door, and it was very, very febrile and dangerous. But my mind also goes to the London Bridge attack. Everyone in London will remember, of course, when that happened. And a man called Darren Frost famously used a narwhal tusk to try and save society. He was stopping this lunatic from blowing up the bridge and hurting more people. And we didn't arrest him, we awarded him. So where is the difference in this case?
Well, I'm afraid I'm as much a loss to this comparator as you are. I mean, there is a manifest difference between a crowd of people who plan an operation in order to, right a wrong that they may see in their area. That certainly is vigilantism. But there's a big difference between that and somebody who's presented, at 9 o'clock in the morning with a person on a mass stabbing spree, and then sort of reacting in the moment to try and put himself between the person who's causing harm and innocent people. That is a split-second decision, and not in any way near the sort of level of planning or coordinated behaviour that a vigilante type scenario would normally throw up. But in terms of the London Bridge attack and our client, my client, I don't see any difference at all between somebody who acted in the context of trying to save people in a terrorist offence and somebody who acted in the spur of the moment to try and save people in a mass stabbing spree.
Mohammed Akunji, thank you very much indeed for outlining us all of that and bringing us up to date as to where that case is so far.
Some response to your appeal there for views. I must say the guy who used his vehicle to protect others is ultimately a hero, but maybe he should have realised the possible consequences for himself. Isn't that tragic, though, when we get to a situation where people have to think, well, what will that mean for me if I save that person?
Yeah, but he had to take an instant decision, and that's the decision he made. Does that make him a hero or a villain in those Maida Vale double deaths on Monday? The time, 7:33 actually, in 3 seconds. And we will take a break and we'll be back with the newspapers with Christopher Biggins and Emily Carver right after this. Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Quick look at today's front pages. We begin with the Daily Telegraph at the time at 7:35. A picture of the late comedian Barry Cryer, who we'll pay tribute to very shortly. He passed away at the age of 86. It also says the Treasury is looking to close a tax loophole that allows people to claim benefits for working from home. Here's The Guardian, also leads with the Treasury story. It says the Chancellor is worried that the national insurance rise may not go ahead. He may be worried, but is anyone else? Donald Trump is pictured on the front page of the Times after he was filmed on a golf course where he calls himself the 45th and the 47th president. Big hint he's going to run in 2024 then. Also, as regards Ukraine, the paper says America is concerned about Russian money swilling about in London. The Mail reveals that 600 Whitehall civil servants are paid over £150,000, and the Daily Star says the legend of the Loch Ness Monster lives on in Wimbledon. Well, that's not much of an explanation. I've no idea. I'm just trying to see the Daily Star. See, I'm trying to explain that. So it lives on in Wimbledon. So this is what is a lake in Wimbledon. And they have their version. That's what it was.
So every few weeks they have a story about this.
But except it's gone south. Gone south. 600 miles from its home. That was the voice and face of Emily Carver there, and beside her, Christopher Biggins, heard before he's seen. On anything. Chris, very good to see you.
And you, Eamonn.
We're going to begin with Emily. You've gone front page of The Sun, and this is the story about the sitcom Only Fools and Horses, which would only be a shadow of itself if it went ahead today.
Well, yeah, this is a nice story, but it does tell us quite a lot about the BBC and the state of the nation in terms of wokery. So Patrick Murray, who of course was the Only Fools and Horses star, he said that if the BBC does go ahead with a remake of Only Fools and Horses, it would have to be watered down quite considerably. They wouldn't be able to use the word plonker, for example, or have some of the scenes where they're trying to pull women, for example.
I'm actually afraid to ask you what does plonker mean or refer to, so we'll just leave it alone. But it must be...
Idiot.
Is it bad?
It's bad.
It obviously is worse than idiot.
Is it worse than idiot?
See, this is the thing. The way we see it, I'm like you, but Biggins is a man who's much wiser, streetwise than we are with this.
But also, though, it's interesting, is all the situation comedies that we know, Eamonn, because we're older, none of them could be on now. I mean, they were all...
Porridge, of course.
Yes.
Does Gold give them trigger warnings before they go on?
Not that
That's the new thing, isn't it? Everything that's slightly problematic has a little trigger warning. But I think this says a lot about BBC comedy in general. I think a lot of people no longer find it funny because of the fear of offence, which takes over the scripts, perhaps.
Well, I don't think anything is funny now on television because...
Do you know, I agree with Biggins.
You know, I mean, do you know if you do a comedy series or you do a live comedy programme which lasts half an hour, you film for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Because they're desperate for you to get a laugh. And it just is a nightmare. Live television, bring it back. It's brilliant.
I've been on shows, Chris, and you would have been as well, from people who are hailed as, you know, so funny.
Yeah.
And after 5 hours, well, 2 hours, 3 hours, you are struggling to stay asleep.
Oh, yes.
And they squeeze every last drop out of it. I mean, how anybody, you, me, you, Emily, we could all have our own comedy shows because it takes so long to film. It really is ridiculous.
They're desperate for fun, for a laugh.
The problem, people are just so fearful of saying the wrong thing, aren't they? That it stunts the humour. I mean, I've been to a comedy night recently and it's very woke.
Yeah. Do you know who I think? I mean, to me, really funny people like Peter Kay, but a comedy genius, Barry Humphries, who's a friend of Dame Edna. And
Barry Humphries.
Dame Edna? Yeah, oh my word. Whether he is himself, whether he's Dame Edna or whatever, you know nobody, don't you? I mean, we were outside talking. You don't. What else did you not know?
Well, Only Fools and Horses.
Barry Cryer.
Only Fools and Horses is one of the first comedies I remember.
How old are you?
And I loved it. No, I'm not 7 years old. Thank you, though. The next story will show my age.
I couldn't agree more with you. Barry Humphries is an absolute genius.
Genius. I mean, I really mean genius.
Oh, really? I mean, I've seen him so many times, and one of my favourite stories, I'm going to indulge now, he's at Drury Lane, And he picked a woman who was a very posh woman. He said, "Where do you live?" And she said, "Belgravia." Belgravia, oh, how lovely, darling. Belgravia, gorgeous there. And do you have, what colour is your bathroom, darling? Dark brown, how lovely. Is that the walls dark brown? Oh, how gorgeous, gorgeous. And what about the bath? And the dark brown, lovely. And the ceiling? Dark brown, your mind's run riot, darling. And what about the carpet? Dark brown. What colour was it originally?
Very good.
Right, we'll not explain that one to anyone. Emily, this is in the Mail. Landmark changes in family life with more than half of women childless at 30. I think it's also front page of the Guardian.
Skipping Trump
there as well.
We'll go straight to this.
So what I'm saying is this is a big thing, isn't it? Because certainly when I was growing up, you know, a lot of people had babies in their early 20s.
Yes. Well, apparently the previous generation, those born in 1975, they had children at the age of 22. That was the average.
Yeah.
Now it's well beyond that. I think it's now 31 is the average age to have your first child. And I think there's a lot of reasons for this. I think young people are starting their lives a little bit later. With so many of us going to university, I think you sort of put off that life experience to a little bit later. I think also there are so many reasons for why women aren't having children. Of course, career is seen as more important. You've also got housing costs, particularly in cities, which are just impossible.
People can't afford to have children.
Yeah, also there's a cultural thing, isn't there? People aren't coupling up as early as they used to. People are, you know, playing the field a little longer before settling down. So there are so many factors. But, you know, I'm not sure whether we should be worried about this. Perhaps we should, because it is true that the longer you wait, the less likely it is for you to conceive. So I think perhaps this is something to be concerned about.
A social trend. Christopher, so Donald Trump, he's out playing golf, and in a video, he calls himself what?
The 45th and 47th US president. And is this a hint, they're saying, the Times today, that he's going to run in 2024? Quite frankly, who cares?
Well, why wouldn't you care?
No, because, well, he's an idiot. I mean, I don't want him running America.
Yeah, but he's an idiot. Is he any worse than... I mean, we all thought he was an idiot, but Joe Biden?
Well, when he's awake, I think he's quite good.
Joe Biden can't string a sentence together at the moment. I do feel for him in these press conferences.
I know.
But you can see how Trump is emboldened by how bad Joe Biden is.
Yeah, well, and also his ego couldn't take the fact that he lost. I mean, he says he won, and, you know, I mean, he's just... The ego is mad. I mean, he can't... look at him. Look, he can't even play golf properly on his own golf course.
I do wonder whether he could win again.
A golf or... Yeah, I wonder, could he win again?
I wonder. It's possible. Anything's possible. I mean, he certainly has the confidence.
Yeah. Suppose you've got to wait to see who else. If not him, who else?
Yeah.
Emily, policing hits a new low. Just 6% of offenders are brought to justice.
Yes, that sounds pretty shocking, doesn't it? That's 1 in 16 crimes end up being brought to justice, end up with a charge. This was 7.3% last year, so it's down again. In 2015, it was 15%. So this is pretty shocking news. It means that if you commit a crime, the chances are you're not going to end up in jail. You're just going to end up with a slap on the wrists, apparently. Apparently, they're pushing a lot of informal punishments known as community resolutions, such as being required to apologise to the victim. So it does look like police resources are not adequate. And they're also framing this in terms of the fact that we're spending £1 million investigating Partygate and whether that's a suitable use of public money. I don't know what your view on that is.
Well, talking about public money, very much in the news today, the Foreign Secretary, and we can't establish if this is a government plane like Air Force One that we have parked up somewhere, or this is, as is being reported, I think in The Guardian, a chartered aircraft. What's your view on that? Do you see that as a waste of public money, or do you see that as a good use of public money?
I don't know if I can say it's a good use of public money. I think it's an appropriate use of public money.
Understandable use.
An understandable use. I mean, she is the Foreign Secretary. Someone said that you said in the feature earlier, someone tweeted that essentially it's an office in the sky, so they can keep all their private conversations private. I mean, I don't want our Foreign Secretary using a budget airline. I mean, I suppose she could go first class British Airways, but apparently they're saying that there weren't any tickets left, which I do find that hard to believe. But
also the £500,000 that they're mentioning is they've grabbed that from somewhere.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily that much money. I mean, I think they're just saying that because if you top of the range private jet probably does cost that, but this wasn't a private. Wasn't a top of the range.
What it was a flying office. They conducted business on board it.
Seems good.
Well, OK, just interested to get your takes on all of that. Christopher, the James Bond list, is it getting longer or shorter as to who would succeed Daniel Craig?
I mean, Baz, in his column today, which I love, his column
in the Mail.
It's great column. And what they're saying is everyone adores Idris Elba. And of course, who wouldn't? He's a wonderful actor. But he won't be named as the man to take over from Daniel Craig, mainly because he's too old. So I'm afraid, Eamonn, we're out.
We're out.
How old is Idris Elba?
Idris is 49. Now, the reason they say he's too old is they want him then, you see, to do like Daniel Craig did, about 4 or 5 movies.
Yeah.
And by the end of the 5th movie, he'll be 70 or something. I don't know. It's ridiculous. So he's out. The other one I love is Hardy, Tom Hardy, who I think is a brilliant actor. But once again, he's too old.
Is he?
Well, he's 44.
Right.
So he's getting up there. But he's a wonderful actor, and I think he'd be a very, very good James Bond. And then the other one they're talking about, I can't pronounce his name, I don't think, but he was the man from Bridgerton. Is it Regé Jean Page?
I think it is.
Oh, him. Yeah.
And I think he was very good. But Baz says no. He's not my Bond. So the problem is that, they're all too old. And I think somebody's going to come up. And, of course, he's saying no woman. I'm sorry, you can't play it. You're desperate to play Mrs. Bond, I know.
I'm desperate, yes. Do you think James Bond has had its day?
No.
No?
No.
Just keep going with it.
I love the last one. Do you like the last one?
That's a very good question. It was emotional. It certainly was emotional.
At the end.
I didn't like the child in it. She got on my nerves. I just sort of thought, let her go and die. Let her fall down a hole and let's just get on with the business again. I hate movies that've got children.
Pointless children.
Yeah. But I just didn't know if it was necessary to kill him at the end of it.
Well, I think that was the one way of getting rid of him completely, I think.
Yeah, OK. It's always a good movie. It's a good spectacle.
Yeah.
Tell us about Barry Cryer.
Well, Barry Cryer, who, we all knew, you knew him as well as I did, and he was a wonderful, wonderful comedy man. I mean, he really was the essence of comedy. I mean, he wrote for everybody. He was very funny. He was a charming man. I spoke to him about a month ago. He rang up about something ridiculous. And, but there are some wonderful things that I love this. There are some jokes. He said, a man is in the front room and his wife is in the kitchen. She says, smoked salmon or chicken? And he says, oh, love, smoked salmon. She says, you're having soup, fatty. I was talking to the cat.
That is funny.
And I've just got one more here, which I think is lovely. Picasso was burgled and did a drawing of the robbers. Police arrested a horse with 2 sardines. Absolutely.
And his beautiful voice, lovely mellow tones as well.
Yes, he was terrific. Absolutely.
May he rest in peace there.
We'll miss him.
We go to the front page of the Times with you, Emily. America sounds alarm over Russian money in London. And apparently there's so much of it could jeopardise Ukraine sanctions.
Yes, I mean, this is a very concerning story, really. American officials are speaking out. They're saying that they will be unable to impose effective sanctions on Putin if Russia invades Ukraine because of years of British tolerance of suspect money flooding into London. And we all know that we've known for years and years and years that we've had corrupt money or dirty money, however you want to call it, flooding into London, particularly our housing market, buying up large areas of Knightsbridge and so on. And if this may have an impact on how we're able to deal with Russia, that's something to be concerned about. Whether American officials should be voicing this in the public arena, I don't know how this story came about, but perhaps it might weaken our resolve slightly.
OK. In the Telegraph, page 21 of the Telegraph, Essex is the subject here, and it's about the marketing of the county of Essex, Chris.
Yes, and of course, the Essex girl, Gemma Collins, who thinks she's the Queen of Essex, and I think she probably is. She's getting on a high horse because Lady Mary out of Downton Abbey, of course, you knew this, I know, Eamonn, was in fact from Essex. She was an Essex girl. Did you know that?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
And another example was Dame Maggie Smith and Victoria Beckham. Well, I understand Victoria Beckham was an Essex girl, but Dame Maggie... I mean,
I thought she was Scottish because of Jean Brodie.
Well, those were the days. But the Essex Council is spending £300,000 on an advertising campaign to lift up the image of Essex.
Yeah, well, I suppose such was the success of Towie, that is.
Yes, I know, but, you know, Gemma Collins, I'm not sure whether she's the one to wield the axe, killing off all these people who, you know, the days...
I like Essex's brand.
Do you like Essex brand?
It just is what it is.
Yes.
You know what you're getting.
It's a good county. It's a good county. There's a lot to it. Guys, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. Christopher Biggins and Emily Carver. They're going to be back in an hour's time. Now, medical matters in this dry January. Let's go to Isabel, who is a bit of an expert on this.
Guys, it's day 28 and I haven't had a drink, so let's less ridicule. I deserve a medal. So we are talking about booze in this next segment. A new study by Yorkshire Cancer Research has found a fifth of drinkers exceed the NHS weekly guidelines of 14 units, which apparently increases the risk of heart disease and strokes. Are an incredibly serious matter. Experts are warning the idea of a tipple the idea that a tipple is good for your health is actually a big myth. Well, let's talk now to Dr. Emeka Okorocha. He's new to breakfast as one of our doctors. Perhaps you become a resident doctor here.
We'll see.
You work in A&E normally.
I do.
You see, I suppose, then a lot of alcohol-related admissions.
Of course.
Is it a myth then that having, drink in moderation can be good for you?
Yeah, it's generally a myth. Like, a lot of people, the big misconception was, if I have a glass of wine a day, low to moderate alcohol use is good for you, but nah, there's no clinical benefit that's good. I think a lot of people think when you say, we recommend drink 14 units of alcohol a week, it's no more than 14 units of alcohol a week. We're not actually saying, if you drink up to this, you should have any clinical benefit for cardiovascular or cerebrovascular disease.
Yeah, because 14 units of alcohol, that's like at least a couple of glasses of wine a night. And I get tipsy after a couple of glasses of wine. So that would mean I'm tipsy 7 days a week, and that's within the limits. And surely if you're tipsy, that's having a
Pretty
negative
much, but you'd be surprised how many people think this is the norm.
Right.
And they're happy to get tipsy every kind of day during the week and be like, okay, well, at least I'm having my couple of units and whatnot. And that alcohol does affect everyone differently. So your tipsy may not be my tipsy, perhaps. Sure. But at the same time, what we're recommending is the long-term damage that it's going to cause you. It's still going to be the same. So what we're seeing in the NHS, especially when it comes down to alcohol, in A&E, I see a lot of alcohol-related cases, and this is usually acute. So people who have gotten drunk and they've done their binge drinking and had all those units at once and come in through alcohol-related injury or acute alcoholism or withdrawal. But the biggest issue in the NHS is actually the chronic diseases that alcohol will lead to, such as stroke, heart attacks, ischemic heart disease, and that's what we're seeing in the Western world. So we're trying to encourage people to not only cut down the alcohol, but limit. Go teetotal. Dry January, why not do the dry year?
Right, OK. So, really, I've found dry January, a challenge, and I look forward to having a drink. Would you say that, the repair that my body has gone through in the period of January then will have been significant?
It's significant in a way, but it's only a short time. I think it's more the mental benefits of dry January, right? The physical benefits you're going to see over a long period of time. So if I was to take a blood test or perhaps and see your liver enzymes, you're not going to really see a big change in a month. But however, mentally, you're going to know that you can function without a drink and you can actually go your general week and have a good time without a drink. And so it's basically getting out of that habitual mindset, like, I'm stressed, I need a drink. Yeah. It's more, I'm stressed, let me talk to somebody, let me go outside, let me do something
put some
productive.
Nice music
yeah,
on.
Put some nice music on.
Yeah.
Finding different ways of coping.
OK, I like it. Now, whilst we've got you, we're going to dig into some of the other big health stories doing the rounds.
Okay.
We saw everyone talks about the Angelina Jolie gene relating to breast cancer. But there's some suggestion now that this same gene also surprisingly affects men.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how she feels about it being the Angelina Jolie gene.
She made it raise awareness.
Yeah, she raised awareness of it. It's the BRCA1 and BRCA2 gene, which have been obviously very known to increase your risk of breast cancer. So she had what we call a double mastectomy. So she had both her breast removed prophylactically and her ovaries, which is an oophorectomy, to limit her risk of having breast cancer and ovarian cancer. But we've seen that these genes, when they're faulty, normally they cause, these genes will cause good cells. When they're faulty, obviously they can lead to cell mutation, which leads to cancer. And we've seen that there's an increase of this in both prostate for men and pancreatic cancer for both men and females.
OK, so a big health warning there for gentlemen then. If they've got any concerns, they should try and see their GP.
And breast cancer for men as well. So breast cancer for men only makes up about 1% of the main cancers for men in the UK, but it's still important that men every month should be checking their breasts as well for lumps, because it does happen and we do see it.
Yeah, you've heard it here. And just sticking with the theme of men's health then, there's a story doing the rounds in the papers about heart disease being affected by worry and anxiety.
Yeah, well, stress is obviously going to affect heart disease in a number of different ways. So when it comes to stress, it comes to like cortisol release and a number of different physiological things your body goes through when you get stressed, including the constriction of blood vessels. Now, if you're having stress over a longer period of time, this constriction of blood vessels is actually going to cause a demonstration of cardiovascular and cerebrovascular disease. Normally, when we're talking about, long-term disease, we're talking about issues with vasculature, and that's what happens when you have a heart attack or a stroke. So stress, although it can look mental, actually has physiological properties where you can actually have chronic health issues.
Yeah, and do you know what? This is all when it comes down to sort of holistic healthcare, because anyone who's stressed or worried naturally might be wanting a drink to ease and causing greater harm.
It's true. It's all linked.
It's all linked. We've just got to live a cleaner life. Dr. Okorocha, we have to leave it there. I could talk to you all morning, but thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you to you, Eamonn.
With that, we head towards the break with the time at 7:58. Ellie Costello, who's been looking at how Team GB athletes are preparing for the Winter Olympics, which start today week.
Hello, good morning. Chilly start to the day, frost in places and a few fog patches, but otherwise plenty of dry and bright weather at first today before it turns more unsettled, especially in the north later on. High pressure still close by, but what we'll see through the next few days is the influence of that high will wane. It will sink to the south. Low pressure will increasingly dominate things further north. And that's why we've got a breezier start to the day for the north and northwest. Some outbreaks of rain here, cloud as well, frost and fog free. But otherwise, fog patches for the next few hours across some southern parts of England into parts of Wales. Eventually they'll lift, and then decent sunny spells for the Midlands, East Anglia, South East England by this afternoon. Otherwise, turning cloudier from the northwest. Temperatures in most places not far from average, but it does turn breezy. In fact, it turns increasingly windy in the north and northwest of Scotland as heavy rain moves in here. And that heavy rain persistent across the northwest Highlands overnight tonight. It will add to about 80 millimetres in some of the wetter spots. Damp for some western hills and coasts elsewhere as the cloud thickens and lowers overnight. But because of the cloud, because of the breeze tonight, well, it's going to be a frost and fog-free start to the weekend. But it will be a grey start with a lot of cloud in the sky, quite breezy through the day, wet and windy for Scotland, Northern Ireland, as well as Northern England, as this lively feature sinks south, bringing a spell of really quite gusty winds as it pushes through. And then blustery but bright for the northern half of the country, with showers following the main area of rain and cloud. But it stays cloudy in the south, but much milder, 12 or 13 Celsius here. A windy day then to come on Saturday, and wind stays the theme through the next few days. Sunday starts off relatively calm, but it turns increasingly windy, especially in the north later on.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Treasury concerns that the Prime Minister may ditch the national insurance rise.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock on Friday, the 28th of January. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
These are the headlines you're waking up to on this Friday morning. Chancellor Rishi Sunak has apparently signalled to colleagues the £12 billion tax hike on national insurance must go ahead.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister refused to commit to the pledge while visiting Wales. We want to know what you want the Prime Minister to do. GB Views at gbnews.uk.
Nightclubs are to reopen and the rule of six ends today in Wales as the First Minister, Mark Drakeford, confirms a move back to alert level 0.
But face masks will remain mandatory in shops and on public transport.
And we're in Sherburn in Elmont today in Yorkshire for On Your Doorstep. It's a village located in the Selby district of North Yorkshire between York and Leeds. Our reporter Anna Riley might be knocking on your door.
We are live across the whole of the UK on both your TV and on your radio. So wherever you are this morning, remember, you can take us with you.
Political story we're concentrating on today. Reports saying that the Chancellor is worried that the Prime Minister may not go ahead with his planned national insurance hike.
Yeah, that's worth around £12 billion. If that does happen, it would represent a significant government U-turn. Let's talk to our political correspondent, Tom Harwood, about all of this. He joins us this morning from Downing Street. Look, you know, the circumstances perhaps have changed from the autumn when this was first pledged. Do you think it's likely that this could be a change of tack from the government?
Well, absolutely. There are two sets of circumstances that have changed, really. One is economic. and one is political. On the political side of things, the Prime Minister is under a huge amount of pressure. Of course, we know that a number of letters have gone into the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady, calling for the Prime Minister to go. So we know that the Prime Minister is listening very intently to the will of his backbenchers. He's been having meetings with his backbenchers. Indeed, those around the Prime Minister, those close to the Prime Minister, have been having meetings with other Conservative MPs as well. And one of the things that those backbench Conservative MPs are calling on the Prime Minister to do is not raise taxes. They think it's a deeply unconservative thing and something that is very, very wrong to do at a time of such a hike in the cost of living, when inflation is the highest it's been in 30 years. And this particular tax rise, national insurance, could well have an inflationary aspect to it as well, because it's paid by employers as well as employees. It could end up meaning that prices are higher in shops in order to fund that side of it. So that's the political side of it. They want to avoid that. But then on the economic side, something has significantly changed as well. Back when this was announced in October, the OBR set a bunch of forecasts in terms of what it thought that tax receipts and spending would be over the course of the year. Well, the latest numbers from the OBR show that there is a significant underspend and more in tax that has been taken in, mainly because more people are in work and the economy has grown faster than predicted. So the Treasury actually finds itself in the fortunate position of having £13 billion more than it thought it would do. And of course, £13 billion is more than the £12 billion this national insurance hike was going to bring in. So it could well be that the Treasury is in a fortunate position here, where it's in this incredibly rare situation, this incredibly lucky situation, where that £12 billion can still go to the NHS, no taxes could be raised, and they'd still have £1 billion more than they thought they would have done at the start of the whole process. That's what some Tory MPs are telling the Prime Minister and the Chancellor. And of course, the Prime Minister over the last few days has not been fulsome in commitments in terms of whether or not this will go ahead. It's a very live issue.
Yeah, Tom, I'm also being told you've got an update on the Partygate investigation.
That's right. The Metropolitan Police this morning have said that they do not want to obstruct the Sue Gray report from going ahead, but crucially, the elements of it that they are investigating should not be published, or should only be made brief reference to in that report. So that's a significant hobbling of what could be public in this report. We know that the Metropolitan Police are investigating 8 of the alleged events taking place both in the building behind me and across Whitehall as well. We don't know which 8 events the Metropolitan Police is investigating, though, or if any of them actually involve the Prime Minister. It could be that those events are the ones that involve just civil service or special advisors. So it's a curious situation. We still are in the dark about a lot of this, but confirmation from the Metropolitan Police that the Sue Gray report, when published while this active investigation is going on, should only make brief reference to those events, those parties that the Metropolitan Police is investigating.
Interesting. So how on earth does she report then on parties if she's only making brief reference to them? This is the plot thickens. Tom Harwood, thank you very much. We'll leave it there. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much indeed. Other headlines that you're waking up to: British companies are being warned to strengthen their digital defences following malicious online attacks in Ukraine. No current threats have been identified for the UK, but the National Cyber Security Centre says the incidents bear the hallmarks of Russian activity.
COVID restrictions have been lifted in Wales. The rule of 6 there has been scrapped. People no longer have to social distance, and great news for partiers, nightclubs can reopen. But COVID passes will still be required in cinemas, theatres and concert halls.
More than 1 million university students will be hit by up to 10 days of strikes next month.
Lecturers at nearly 70 institutions are planning to take action over what they describe as beyond disgraceful pay conditions and pensions.
The government is pledging to make British Sign Language a recognised language. It's hoped a new bill will improve access for deaf people and promote its use during public announcements.
The National Trust has revealed plans to create a new habitat for wildlife. The so-called Green Corridor will link the centre of Bath to surrounding countryside, running through 40 hectares of meadowland. It is the first of 20 corridors that the Trust will create by 2030 in England and Wales and Northern Ireland.
So, next week, 1 week to go until the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics in Beijing.
Yeah, fantastic. Team GB athletes have been limbering up to take part in their events to prove they really are the best in the world.
Our South East of England reporter, Ellie Costello. Ellie is live and she's on her feet, look at that, at the Riverside Ice Rink in Chelmsford.
It's an ice conga, if you will.
Oh, right. Now, don't fall over just for us.
Hi, Eamonn and Isabel. Welcome to Chelmsford Ice Rink. Thank you very much, Paula. We knew that would happen. Thank you very much, guys. Welcome to Chelmsford Ice Rink. We've been here since 6 o'clock this morning with some of Britain's youngest and best stars. They're here bright and early like they are every single day, and they are so excited for the Winter Olympics, which are starting a week today in Beijing. So let's go meet some of them now. Come with me. Best of luck, everybody. Let's try and spin. Whoa. Here we go. Okay, let's start with the little one over here first. So what's your name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. And how old are you?
11.
11 years old. And how long have you been skating for?
6 years.
6 years. You must love skating, right? What's your favourite thing about skating?
Going to competitions.
So you're a competitive skater. Do you think you could see yourself at the Olympics one day?
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah, I like that. That's nice and humble. I like that. Paige, let's come to you. How old are you?
I'm 17.
17 years old. And how long have you been skating for?
Since I was 2.
Since you were 2 years old, you've been skating a long time, so you're obviously really, really good. Who are you most looking forward to watching at the Olympics?
Definitely the Russians.
The Russians. Now, why do people talk about the Russians? It's never Team GB, it's always the Russians.
They're just amazing. They're dominating everything in the skating world at the moment. So, yeah, they're just absolutely amazing.
They're the ones to beat the Russians. You heard it here. And Paige, we've got 2 pages here. Makes it nice and easy for me. Paige, this is hard work, isn't it? I mean, there's lots of hours that you guys put in. Talk to me about your morning routine.
So I come at 6, stay here for an hour and a half, and just basically practice as much as possible every day.
So you're literally on the ice every single day. It is a massive discipline, isn't it? And I can testify that all of them were here at 6 o'clock this morning and they have not stopped. It's amazing. So I'm going to bring in their coach now. This is Paula, Glam Paula. Thank you so much for joining us. Your girls are so talented. What is it about ice skaters that just makes them so disciplined? What are the key ingredients that an ice skater needs?
Determined. They've got to have a good attitude and they've got to keep trying. Even if they fail, they've got to keep trying all the time.
So for people who are watching the Winter Olympics next week for the first time and they fancy their hand at ice skating, what would you say?
Go to your local rink, get some skates on and get going.
Get going. I love that. Right, so the girls are going to show us some of their tricks now. So I'm going to step out of the shot, if I can, and not fall over. And the girls are going to show you the best of what they've got. Take it away. Woo! Girls, that is amazing. And I think we've got time for one more, so we're going to do the other one, which I think is a spin, didn't you say, Paul? Look at that, I spun myself then. Take it away.
Look at that, look at that. I have to say, Ellie is very, very good.
She's very elegant, isn't she?
Very good.
Ellie, go on, have a go at that.
There you go. Well done, girls. Let's bring it in. Let's bring it in. So there you go, Eamonn and Isabel. I'm almost as good as them. Maybe we could all be at the Olympics in a few years' time, right?
Yeah, and Ellie, where did you learn to skate?
I've been skating for years, Eamonn, can't you tell?
Very good.
Well, this morning, actually, I will say, this morning, I got here at 6, I couldn't do anything, so we've come a long way in about an hour.
You're a fast learner, Ellie. We've got to give it to you. Next time we're
getting there.
We want full pirouettes and maybe even a jump. And next year you'll be on Dancing on Ice if you play your cards right.
Very good. Well, from Chelmsford, we move forward now to Yorkshire. And on your doorstep, in a place called Sherburn in Elmet. No reason why you should have heard of it. It is a village in the Selby district of North Yorkshire, and it is between York and Leeds.
Yeah, it's nestled within areas of big British industry. It's a village first inhabited back in Roman times, but today it is actually best known for being surrounded, as we just said, by large industrial estates and an old World War II airfield that employs thousands.
Well, 10,000 people live there. Very welcoming, as we found out from our reporter Anna Riley today. It's in her patch, it's on her beat. And Anna, thanks for bringing us there as well this morning. So where are you? Who are you going to speak to?
Good morning. Yes, we've come out of the centre of the village and we've been looking at residents that we can speak to, and we're going to have a knock on this door, so just follow me. And we're going to speak to a resident about the day's news and what they do. So let's give them a knock and see if they'll let us in. Good morning. Hello. GB News here. Wondered if we could come in and have a chat with you.
Yes, come in.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, it's lovely and warm in here, lovely and toasty. And just name and introduce yourself for our listeners and viewers.
My name's John. I've been a resident of Sherburn in Helmet for the last 22 years. To me, it's a fair bit of time, but to some of the older people, I'm a newcomer still. So, yeah, I'm part of the community now, yes.
Know the village well. And what we've been talking about this morning is the rising cost of living. How's that impacted you?
Well, obviously, prices are going up. The big concern at the moment is the energy costs. I mean, my bill has gone up 25% from last year to this year. And of course, in April, we're expecting another huge increase, which will possibly mean it'll be gone up 50%. Now, so incomes of sort of mine, I'm a pensioner, I rely on the pension. And of course, the pensions were capped this year, so that our increase in pension is 3.1%. So it's not actually matching up to how the inflation is, but everything's getting more expensive. The food's more expensive, going out for a meal, going out for a drink, going out to the pub, have a couple of beers, and I say that the expenses is just mounting up. And I think obviously the people that run the businesses are trying to recoup some of they're being charged more, so they have to pass on those cost increases to us, the public. So yes.
Bit of a vicious cycle. But what I can see here, you mentioned you were retired. Could you have been a police officer?
Yes, I was retired. I was a police officer. I worked for the police for over 40 years.
Who are you in this?
I'm on the top right.
Here we go. You had a moustache back then.
Well, everyone had a moustache then. That was the style. So I grew a moustache when I was about 17, with the intention to make myself look a bit older, to look a bit more mature. And eventually, when I got to about 50, and having achieved that objective, I decided then to shave it off and to be clean shaven and make me look younger, which I'm trying to do now.
Well, what was it like being in the police force? What drew you to it?
Well, my father was in the police force, and it's a way of life. It's an occupation that it just captures you. You're part of a big family there, and no matter where you go in the country, you can go to any other police force, and you'll have a relationship, or you build up a relationship with them. And the team we worked on, they've always been close, and I still keep in contact with many of them now.
And how do you think it's changed? Because you said that picture was 1975. When did you start, and what do you think to the force now?
I think the pressures on the police have gone up probably tenfold. There's less officers now trying to deal with more incidents, more reports, and it's just a vicious circle where they keep, they can't investigate the offences, the reports, like they used to do before. It's just they don't have the time or sufficient numbers being able to do that. I mean, they cut the police officers down by 20,000. They cut the civilian staff that used to provide assistance and help them to do the job. They cut them down. So consequently now, they're stretched. They're going from call to call to call, not having really time to investigate some of the more serious issues.
Definitely a lot more pressures. And Sherburn, what's it like for crime here?
Sherburn is I've lived and worked in West Yorkshire for many years, and the crime rate here it's one of the best in the country in terms of it's the lowest in the country. So it's a reasonably safe place to live. And I feel a lot, I feel happy sort of to live here in this type of environment. Yeah.
And it's a great community spirit.
Oh, very much so, very much so. When COVID first came out, when we got notification of there being a potential lockdown, we had a meeting and a group of us got together and we asked for volunteers and we set up a coronavirus aid group which was there to provide assistance to the residents of Sherburn if they couldn't get out to the shops or couldn't collect the medication from the chemists or needed other things that could be done. And within a short time, with over 70 volunteers that came forward. And similarly, there's a lot of voluntary organisations within Sherburn which are well supported by the local community volunteers. The local library is a community library. A local school has become a community centre and again run by volunteers. And it's a really good village. In fact, it's not a village now; it's a town. Yeah.
Still officially a village, but it is getting that way.
Yeah, well, we're just short of 10,000 people that live here now. 8 years ago, you might still call it a village, but now, with the numbers of people here, the expansion that we've had, and also the expansion to the industrial estate, it's a town now. You can call it what you want, but it's a town.
Thank you so much, John. Lovely to speak to you. So, yeah, really insightful chatting here to John this morning about the day's news and what it was like to be a police officer.
It is, Anna, really insightful. You know, there's John going about his business. He was making his toast. He was probably watching us on TV. You arrive at the door. You've brightened up his day there. Now, are you going to stay on for a wee cup of tea or something?
Yes, I think the kettle might be on. Yeah, I might get a little cuppa and warm up.
That's nice. So John's waking up his day there. John Boyd, retired police officer. It was nice. Anna showed us around his shelves and his pictures and all that sort of thing there as well. But just what's really nice is real people with real views making the news that we formulate and transmit here for you on GB News. Anna, thanks very much indeed from, I've forgotten what it's called. What is it called?
Oh,
Shelby?
Don't ask me. Shelburn in Elmet.
In Elmet. It's a big name. Shelburn in Elmet in Yorkshire.
Yeah. Stay with us.
We've put you on the map.
Yes, we have. The time's 8:21. We'll be back in a moment talking about care homes.
Hello, good morning. Chilly start to the day, frost in places and a few fog patches, but otherwise plenty of dry and bright weather at first today before it turns more unsettled, especially in the north later on. High pressure still close by, but what we'll see through the next few days is the influence of that high will wane. It will sink to the south. Low pressure will increasingly dominate things further north. And that's why we've got a breezier start to the day for the north and northwest. Some outbreaks of rain here. Cloud as well, frost and fog free, but otherwise fog patches for the next few hours across some southern parts of England into parts of Wales. Eventually they'll lift and then decent sunny spells for the Midlands, East Anglia, South East England by this afternoon. Otherwise turning cloudier from the northwest, temperatures in most places not far from average, but it does turn breezy. In fact, it turns increasingly windy in the north and northwest of Scotland as heavy rain moves in here. And that heavy rain persistent across the Northwest Highlands overnight tonight. It will add to about 80 millimetres in some of the wetter spots. Damp for some western hills and coasts elsewhere as the cloud thickens and lowers overnight. But because of the cloud, because of the breeze tonight, well, it's going to be a frost and fog-free start to the weekend. But it will be a grey start with a lot of cloud in the sky. Quite breezy through the day, wet and windy for Scotland, Northern Ireland, as well as Northern England, as this lively feature sinks south, bringing a spell of really quite gusty winds as it pushes through. And then blustery but bright for the northern half of the country, with showers following the main area of rain and cloud, but it stays cloudy in the south, but much milder, 12 or 13 Celsius here. A windy day then to come on Saturday, and wind stays the theme through the next few days. Sunday starts off relatively calm, but it turns increasingly windy, especially in the north later on.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News. Welcome back. It's 8:26. We're talking about COVID restrictions in care homes next. They're to be eased from Monday with no limit on the amount of visitors that are allowed in a cut to self-isolation period as well. Let's bring in Caroline Noon. She's a care worker, but also interestingly, her mother is in a care home. She can give us a really interesting twin-track take on this story. Welcome to the show, Caroline. First of all, just tell us your response to all of this, because your mother went into a care home after a big battle just before the pandemic and unfortunately has had to experience all these really tight restrictions throughout. Just tell us about her story.
She went into a care home prior to COVID. She's coming on for 82 years old and has vascular dementia, and she had COVID in 2020, which has left her not being able to walk anymore. But the actual visit times are still only 30 minutes in care homes. It might have ease restrictions on the amount of people that can go in, but the majority of care homes still kind of restrict it to 30 minutes, saying that they haven't got the staff to actually accommodate it. So I tend to have like a 6-hour round trip from Wigan down to Leicester, which is where she is, to try and get access to see my mum for just 30 minutes in the day. I can take her out, but the problem being is taking her out with having a dementia is probably the worst thing for her. So it still doesn't relieve the fact that normality isn't really coming back into the care homes.
Look, and we've heard this time and again that people with dementia have really suffered with the restrictions because there's been real confusion about why they haven't been surrounded by their loved ones in the normal way. And it's been incredibly hard to explain that to those residents in a meaningful way.
Yeah. And when she had COVID she had COVID in October 2020, and we didn't think, even the GPs didn't think that she was actually going to make it. And unless she was actually on the anticipatory end-of-life drugs, we still weren't allowed to go in and see her. So no family was around her at that time. Obviously, luckily enough, she did pull through, but with the consequences of not being able to walk. But then, releasing, and I can understand that we have to be protective of the most vulnerable in our community, but the people that are there are the ones that need the family to make them come on a little bit more, and they just haven't got that. The care workers do as much as they can, and the government guidelines are there, but then each care home takes the government guidelines in their own way and interpret them differently. So it's not. It might be releasing so that many people can go and see them, but it's still only down to 30 minutes. So I see my mum for 30 minutes once a month.
You're cautiously optimistic then. You're still pleased that these rules are changing, but it's still going to have a bit of a difficult impact on you. And I know that we can see where you are. You're in a care home yourself because you are a care worker. And I just want to ask you about how that affects how you feel about visiting your mum, because I suppose you're exposed to more risk than the average person. Are you also worried about now, with the easing of restrictions, that perhaps you could make your mum unwell again?
Well, that's right. I mean, I don't work actually, I work in the community. So I work with different clients all throughout the community. But we do take the PCR tests every week and lateral flow tests to make sure that we are all clear. But it still is a risk of actually taking anything back to the care homes or to my mum. But then you just have to weigh up the options of what is best for my mum. As long as we are clear from the PCR tests, then to visit them, it's the actual effect that it has on them to see friendly faces and family that they know. Even though they might not know where they are, they do recognise the faces of the family most of the time.
Well, look, our heart goes out to you. You know, you're doing an amazing job, not only visiting your mum. I know you had to sell your mum's house to pay for her care. You're trying to work. You're doing these long visits for very short visitations to your mum. It's tough, and we're grateful for you coming on this morning to talk to us about it and highlighting it all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
One of the many reasons I admire you. Did you not tell me at one stage you worked in a care home?
Yeah, I did, yeah. On my gap year, I worked as a nursing assistant and I worked in lots of care homes. And I'm one of those people who's really lucky. I had a very, very close relationship with my grandparents growing up. Absolutely miss them every single day to this day. And so I had a really positive view of older people. Yeah. And so whenever I looked after anybody in a care home, I genuinely just imagined that they were my nana. And how would I want someone to look after my nana? And it was a pleasure. I found people at that age really fascinating, and I loved doing it. I mean, it's hard. You do all the commodes and all the unglamorous stuff as well, but I viewed it as a privilege, really. I didn't do it for a career. It was just, just was to fund me through uni. Yeah.
I'm not talking about social care workers. I'm talking about the rest of us. So many of us then don't want to get up close and personal. If you're related to someone, people don't want to dress them, undress them, clean them, look after them, all that sort of thing. Well, that's good that it doesn't worry. And also treating people with dignity and respect, the fact that they have lived a life and not treating them as if there's some sort of irrelevance.
No, definitely with respect. They're your elders at the end of the day, and they've seen it all, done it all.
But society often doesn't see that, and advertising often doesn't see that. So that's a lesson to learn. Look, we're going to take the break with the time at 8:32, and then after that we're going to indulge in the newspapers. A very entertaining look with Christopher Biggins and Emily Carver right after this. Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236. On Sky, we're channel 515. 626 on Virgin Media. Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel. Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News. Very warm welcome back. The time is 8:34. Time now to take a look at your newspaper front pages, kicking off with the Telegraph this morning. It's picturing the late comedian Barry Cryer, who yesterday passed away at the age of 86. It also talks about the Treasury looking to close a tax loophole that allows people to claim benefits for working from home. The Guardian leading with a Treasury story too, saying the Chancellor Rishi Sunak is worried that the national insurance rise may not go ahead. Here's the Mirror. It says the Palace is worried about the sex abuse allegations against Prince Andrew, which he denies. The Mail reveals that 600 Whitehall civil servants are paid over £150,000. OK, time now for Eamonn to go through the papers.
Thanks, Isabel. Inside those papers now with Christopher Biggins and Emily Carver. Very good to see you both. And one of the stories, the front page of The Sun, Christopher, and this is the whole situation about Prince Andrew's desire to be tried by jury in a civil case, but not all are happy about this.
No, I think his brother Charles and his nephew William are not happy at all about this situation. I feel sorry for the Queen. Here we are in her platinum year, and the poor woman is being subjected to this. I mean, her heinous, horriblest years seem to go on and on and on and on. I mean, I just think she's the most wonderful monarch we've ever had and will ever have. And yet all these things are happening to her. It's just terrible. There's a picture of her yesterday looking very forlorn, being driven in a Range Rover on her land. And I don't know, I just feel that Andrew is not looking to his mother in this particular situation. I mean,
maybe he hasn't much of a choice. Whether he ever gets to trial by jury or not is another thing, but certainly that's the option.
It's all to do with money, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, this girl was given $500,000. And wants more. She's obviously run out of money.
Well, if I were Emily, judging by his performance on the Newsnight interview, you don't think he'd really want to be cross-examined or appearing in court at all?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he seems to have a certain type of narcissism that means perhaps he doesn't see his own flaws. I think he genuinely may still believe that Newsnight interview went well for him and that everyone else is to blame.
And I
think he has that innate confidence, but it must have been awful for the Queen to have to remove all his commendations and remove all his royal gigs and whatnot.
Right, OK. Emily, you've got the Express. You've taken page one in the Express. And really, within the Conservative Party, people who are Boris Johnson's allies, they're saying, look, be careful about this because they see a repeat of what they term the Thatcher betrayal.
Yes, of course, Boris is under a huge amount of pressure. Many people calling for him to resign. But it does seem like the mood may be changing among backbenchers. You've got the Daily Express, which of course is a Boris-supporting paper, saying that some of his allies within the party, some of the MPs who are backing him, are warning the potential rebels, those who are writing letters to get rid of him, to calm down a bit and don't repeat what happened to Margaret Thatcher, which of course may have contributed to the fact that Labour were then in power for so long.
Yeah, OK. They could see this as a bit of an own goal. That's what they're saying.
A bit of an own goal, yes.
Learn from history.
Yes.
Christopher, you go to The Sun, and Adele in Las Vegas, and there she is. She's photographed in an arena there.
In front of her set.
Yeah.
Which they've dismantled. Which now, if they've dismantled this set, and it looks huge. I mean, we got the impression that it was going to be big, but it looks absolutely enormous and very complicated. And if they're dismantling it, I can't think she'll be going back this year.
Yeah.
And they've already booked other people to take over from her.
Keith Urban, isn't it? Yeah, Nicole Kidman's husband. He's been...
That's right. And then I think, who else is going? Anyway, there's a lot of people lined up. And I think it must be... I mean, I think the pressure on her is enormous. And I'm amazed to find out from this article that the seats were selling for £9,000.
Well, such is the demand, such is the esteem in which she's held. But this won't do her standing, her professional representation any good at all.
No, I know. I mean, but I fear that there's more to this story than meets the eye. I think she's probably on the verge of a nervous breakdown by the sounds of it. And, you know, it's tough. We all know it's tough. Our business is not easy. And, you know, it's a real problem for artists.
She hasn't changed her product either. I mean, I don't know if you've listened to her newest album, but it's very much the same sort of tone, the same kind of lyrics, the same sound as her previous album. And women in this industry, they have to sort of reinvent themselves all the time.
Yeah.
Perhaps this was her own failure, I don't know.
But Emily, I was looking at this, and what is that song she has? Someone Like Me?
Someone Like You.
Someone Like You. And I think people look, and there's an accessibility about Adele. That she could have weight fluctuation like you. People go, well, she's just like me. The songs were romance and the relationships break up just like me. You know, people see that. But the thing is, she's such a talent. She's not.
She's no longer like you and me. She was working class from the East End, I think. Oh, no, South London. Yes, she's gone up and down in her weight. She's sort of been a bit of a pin-up in that way, just for the way she's sort of made good.
And relationship
but now she's obviously worth millions and millions. And how much do you reckon she's lost if this doesn't go? She must have been about to be paid millions.
No, a lot.
£500,000 a set.
A set?
A set she was getting,
Wow. There you go.
There you go. So, well, she must be.
No wonder she was crying in that Instagram post.
No wonder she was crying. Yeah. But it is very, very sad. So, you know, maybe sometimes people say you're a diva, and.
I think that probably she's not a diva. I just think she's going. I mean, she's had a terrible relationship problem.
Yes.
She's had a lot of problems, which, you know...
She's fragile.
I think she's fragile, yes, I really do.
Yeah. OK, have you ever played Las Vegas yourself?
No, but I've been to Las Vegas, and I did go with a friend of mine called Liza Minnelli once, and I spent 3 weeks with her there. And I have to tell you, we had the most wonderful time.
Was she performing?
She was performing, and on some of her days off, we did wonderful things together. Like go and meet. There was do you ever remember the Maguire sisters? They were like the Beverly sisters in America.
Right.
One was called Phyllis Maguire.
They sound very Irish.
They were good American girls, but she was married to a member of the mafia.
Oh.
And they had a house which we were invited to for lunch one day. And in the house, there was this famous replica of the Eiffel Tower. They went to Paris and saw the span of the Eiffel Tower in their house. You could walk underneath it. And they had to have a hole in the roof to put the thing. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. It was just fantastic.
And I suppose it was a light fitting at the end of the day or something like that. Emily, in the Times, university puts trigger warning on Harry Potter.
Yes, this is one of those classic stories. The University of Cheshire, the English department, has put a warning on Harry Potter, which is one of their books in their first-year literature module. God knows why Harry Potter is in a university what do you call it, course material. But anyway, apparently it could lead to difficult conversations about gender, race, sexuality, class and identity, and that if the students have a problem or if they feel unsafe or if they have concerns, they should let it be known to their professor and so on. And of course, I assume that what they're getting at is the fact that J.K. Rowling has been so under fire over her supposedly transphobic comments, she had all the backlash from the Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, the cast of the Harry Potter series, who've all chosen to distance themselves from them. Academia has chosen to distance themselves from J.K. Rowling too. But we always see this, trigger warnings for reading lists at universities. I mean, I can't imagine many of your viewers here well, I imagine they're rolling their eyes at this kind of story.
But those artists, though, who complained about her, I mean, having earned millions.
Yeah. Yes, well, quite.
You know, I think, come along, let's have a little think about this. You know, it's not on.
Bit of gratitude.
Yeah, exactly. She's a wonderful
little
woman.
humbleness.
You just wonder if she created a new film or stage production or whatever, and she asked them to be in it, would they refuse?
Yeah, I wonder.
I wonder. Christopher, so you are going to The Guardian. This is page 9.
Yes.
And there's the opportunity for a bill going through Parliament to make British Sign Language official, a government backing an official language.
Yes, which is fantastic, especially considering Rose Ayling-Ellis, who, with Giovanni, won the Come Dancing, Strictly Come Dancing competition. I mean, which was wonderful. I mean, did you see that moment where they stopped the music and she danced in silence? I mean, it was very, very
powerful,
moving,
very
powerful.
Yeah.
But the British Deaf Association, the BDA, said the bill would encourage government departments and public bodies to follow the guidance, giving deaf people equal access to education, employment, public services such as the NHS, which is terrific. And the British Sign Language is an indigenous language of the UK and should be accorded the same legal protection as Welsh and Scottish Gaelic. And I agree totally. I think it's wonderful that they're doing that.
Right, Guardian, for you, Emily, and this is a political machination brewing today. So Sunak, the Chancellor, he basically says we need a national insurance rise to pay for lots of things. The Prime Minister now knows this will be quite unpopular, being told by his backbenchers, basically said, if you want our support, do away with that. So the Prime Minister yesterday refusing to confirm that this national insurance rise will go through. Sunak obviously fuming about all of this as well. Could be the plot of a film, couldn't it?
It could be. I don't know if there's a murder or anything to come, but yes, there's a lot of disagreement there. I mean, we know that Boris Johnson has always wanted to turn the spending taps on. He's wanted it to be, let's say, a little less restrained than Sunak, who's always got his eye on the figures, of course. But what I would say is that I do think Rishi Sunak does have the space to cancel this national insurance hike. If you look at the figures, we haven't borrowed nearly as much as we thought we would, as the OBR had suggested we might, had forecast we might. So it may well be that Rishi Sunak can cancel this national insurance hike, and Boris Johnson needs him to, really. I mean, his political future is at stake. And
but
this
there
could
is battles within battles. This is Sunak's political future as well, and Johnson realises that, and he's in hock to his backbenchers. It is absolutely fascinating, the machinations of it all.
I mean, Rishi could be the next Prime Minister.
Absolutely right. Yeah, maybe depending on this. Or not.
Yeah.
Guys, really appreciate Christopher Biggins. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, Eamonn.
And Emily Carver being here throughout the whole morning. Thank you. Please come back and see us again. Right now, we're going to get viewer reaction. I hope there's nothing nasty about you, but we're going to find out. Views that are coming in, Isabel.
Nothing nasty. Absolutely nothing nasty. We'll definitely have them back, won't we, Eamonn? They were fabulous. Great to have them. Look, Sam sent this one in. He says, just wanted to say, love the breakfast show with you both. No longer watch... I won't mention the name of the other channels, but the other channels. My reason for emailing is you were talking about the new James Bond naming certain celebrity. Everybody seems to forget this particular actor, but Charlie Hunnam is a fantastic British actor who'd make a great James Bond. My vote is actually Tom Hiddleston. No one ever talks about him. Lots of talk about Liz Truss and her private jet this morning. Les says we all know the cost of living is getting out of hand, but the government's still wasting our taxes. Liz Truss jetting off to Oz at a cost of £500,000. More money sent to Afghanistan for what? Also, people talking about our Have a Go hero story this morning. We spoke to the solicitor who is representing the man who actually killed a gentleman, stabbing his ex-wife on the streets of London on Monday morning. People saying, personally, I think he acted on instinct and he didn't intend to kill the guy. I think a lot of people would have done the same, to be honest. Lisa Chamberlain says this seems like he potentially saved innocent lives. And finally, Daryl Harnsworth says he saw a man stabbing a person to death, and yes, he did the right thing trying to protect life. We were asking you this morning, was he a hero or a villain? It certainly seems as though there's some consensus this morning that he was a hero. Keep those thoughts coming into us this morning. Now, over to you, Eamonn.
With the time now at 12 minutes before 9 o'clock, you're very welcome. This is Breakfast in GB News. On radio and on television with Eamonn and Isabel. Scotland's families are paying the price for two bad governments, says Ian Murray, who's the Shadow Secretary of State for Scotland, because the cost of living, Ian Murray, is beginning to bite. And you think people are feeling it quite sharply?
Country are feeling this cost of living crisis very sharply indeed, with lots to come down the train. We've got a massive national insurance hike, a 10% national insurance hike coming up from the government in April. We've got the energy price cap to be lifted, which may take household bills in terms of an energy bills up to an average of £2,000 per household. We've got council tax rises coming down the train because of the slashing of budgets to local authorities. So these cost of living crisis, alongside the fuel prices at the pumps and the weekly shop, is really creating a problem where 38% of people in a recent poll by Citizens Advice in Scotland said that people were worried about paying their bills.
You know, Ian, everybody's feeling this bite. What would you say to people who are watching all around the country and said, yeah, well, we're all feeling this, we're all in this together? Do you think it's worse in Scotland?
Well, there are two factors that make it worse in Scotland, or maybe three factors. Firstly is the energy bills are higher because of the climate in Scotland and indeed the darker nights here in terms of using energy. Secondly, councils are being asked to put up council tax by a significant amount because the Scottish Government has slashed local authority budgets again. They've taken billions out of local authority budgets over the last 10 years. And the third thing is that we're paralysed in Scotland by an independence referendum, and the Scottish Government are looking to spend significant amounts of money on taking a referendum bill through Parliament. So all of these things combined show that we are in a worse position, or certainly as a worse position in Scotland as we are across the rest of the UK. And of course, alongside that is the energy crisis affects us up here as much as it does across the rest of the country. Prices on the supermarket shelves and indeed fuel. So the cost of living crisis in Scotland is as acute as it is elsewhere, and of course is made worse by various other factors in terms of the Scottish Government's decisions on council tax and other things.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, just the simple thing of climate. I mean, I'm identifying with you and I'm empathising with you, being obviously from Northern Ireland and seeing how, you know, people like you and I pay more, people who live there, for their fuel and for their consumables and whatever because of geography. Across Scotland, 14% of pensioners, that's 150,000 people, live in relative poverty every year, and fuel poverty affecting 1 in 3 older people. So we could go on listing the problems. What are the solutions?
Well, can I give you two solutions, one UK-wide and one specifically to do with the Scottish Parliament? The Scottish Parliament has the powers to provide pensioners, those 14% of pensioners that you talk about, with a top-up to the winter fuel payment. And we've been fully funding a proposal to give pensioners in Scotland £70 extra, which could be put through the Scottish Parliament under parliamentary time. Although the Scottish Government are finding time for a new referendum bill, they're not finding time to use the powers they have to help those pensioners in fuel poverty. And across the UK, we've announced a fully funded package to make sure that we could take £200 off every household energy bill and up to £600 of low incomes, of pensioners and of medium income households across the country, fully funded by scrapping VAT on bills, by easing out and flattening out the energy supplier failures that go on to individual bills, and from a one-off windfall tax on North Sea oil and gas, which has been hugely profitable by the increase both in oil price and indeed terms of energy prices. So it's a fully funded package to try and help with the cost of living crisis. But of course, we don't see any of that because the UK government is paralysed at the moment by Partygate, with a Prime Minister who's too busy trying to save his own job than trying to deal with some of these big cost of living crises across the country. And we've got a Scottish government who's spending money and time on another referendum in terms of the constitutional position than trying to use the powers of the Scottish Parliament to help hard-pressed families and pensioners across Scotland.
Interesting you use the word paralysed there in relation to Partygate, because I suppose the whole nation at the moment waiting for Sue Gray to report. And I just want to ask you about the developing line in this story. The Met Police this morning asking that there is minimal reference in her report to events that it's investigating, which apparently relates to 8 Downing Street parties. Yeah. And I just wonder what your reaction to that is. If we're now going to have a longer hiatus waiting for the Met Police report into what actually went on during lockdown, is the government going to be able to continue to function?
Well, the government is completely paralysed at the moment because all efforts are being put in by the Cabinet and by the Prime Minister's friends to try and save his job. Backbenchers on the government benches are doing everything they possibly can to try and get the Prime Minister out of his job. Everyone was waiting on the Sue Gray report. And what the Metropolitan Police has done today has shown that in terms of the Sue Gray report, there is some kind of alleged criminality in there in terms of breaking the rules, and they're asking for minimal reference to that. And that's a very, very serious issue. It calls into question the Prime Minister in terms of the ministerial code in line to Parliament. And the very fact the Metropolitan Police are talking about 8 parties. The Prime Minister said there were no parties, then he said he didn't attend parties, then he said he didn't think they were parties but work events, and now we're up to the latest excuse of the Prime Minister being ambushed by his own birthday cake. It's become farcical, and it would be like a funny play if it wasn't so serious for the country. But we do need to see the Sue Gray report. We want it published in full. We want it warts and all, so we can see exactly what's been happening in Downing Street by the Prime Minister. We want to know, and we want to confirm that it's one rule for the Prime Minister and one rule for the rest of the country. And I think the country's made their mind up on this, Prime Minister, and the only way to get out of this paralysis is for the Prime Minister to do the decent thing.
Okay.
Ian Murray, really good talking to you. Ian Murray's the Shadow Secretary of State for Scotland. Thank you very much indeed for your time. This is all ahead of a visit to Scotland by Sir Keir Starmer there. Paul Coyte now with the sports news, just to bring you up to date here. And a big conspiracy theory. Isabel was licking her lips on this one, Paul. And she was saying, over the Novak Djokovic positive test. Well, Isabel, you explain it.
Everybody remembers that the exemption that Novak Djokovic wanted to use to get into Australia was that he had tested positive in December.
Correct.
He was then photographed the next day mingling with people.
Yeah.
Well, there's now a theory that his test, serial code from his testing, lateral flow test, actually doesn't tie up with other Serbian ones at that time. Suggestions at this time that he could have faked it?
Well, the certificate, the number at the top of the certificate, the first one from when he tested positive is a number which is after the one that he tested negative. So 16th of December was when he tested positive, supposedly, and that's when we see him mixing with children that he didn't know, etc., etc. But that was his exemption to get into the Australian Open. We know very well it didn't work. So then on the 22nd of December, the serial number, I feel like, and there's a grassy knoll involved in there as well somewhere. So the serial number on the second one is lower than the serial number on the certificate.
Look, guys, wait a minute. You're both losing me here.
Right.
What would the intention or motive be in faking the tests?
The fact that he didn't have COVID at all, the fact that the tests, that there were certificates were provided to him, one saying that he actually had COVID, and the second one saying that he tested positive. First one saying he tested positive, second one saying he tested negative, which then proved if he went to Australia, look, I'm absolutely fine now, but I am exempt from any vaccination because I've already tested positive for COVID in the past.
I've already had it.
Yeah.
Exactly, but there's the smoking gun here. Is it the number on the certificate that may actually show, did he have COVID at all?
It does make sense that, he'd go out and mingle because he didn't maybe really have it, and then it was written retrospectively.
Well, this is the thing a lot of people have been thinking about, was actually, it's very, it just all fits very nicely. Of course, they had none of it as soon as he got over there.
Yeah.
But did he actually have COVID in the first place?
I just want to round up a few things really, really quickly.
OK, fine.
The Everton job, is it Frank Lampard's
I think, you know what, I think it is going to be Frank Lampard. Really? Vitor Pereira is the guy who seems to be shouting louder than anybody else.
Yeah.
He's the Portuguese, so he's come in. People are talking about him. But, I mean, has he got a great track record? The answer is not really. I think Frank Lampard is going to be the man. I think maybe we'll hear that today.
I think a powerful, amazing player at Wolverhampton Wanderers is Adam Traore.
Yeah.
Spurs, your team, hoping to nab him, but you think that deal may be hijacked?
I think it may be hijacked by Barcelona. He was at Barcelona when he was a youngster. Often Spurs do I say often, nearly all the time, they'll do their business very late. Waiting, doing deals with Wolves, offering lower amounts and trying to come to terms with that. Now Barcelona have come in, so I think that Adama Traore will go to Barcelona because that will probably suit him better.
OK, Paul, really appreciate that. Got to leave it there. We've got to hit the break, my friend. Thank you very much indeed. We will do that. We will see you with all the big news, top of the hour. Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News. Scotland Yard asks the Sue Gray inquiry into allegations of lockdown-breaking parties in Downing Street to make only minimal reference to the events being investigated by the force.
That's the breaking story you're waking up to on this Friday, the 28th of January. The time is 9:01.
You're watching Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel. These are our headlines this morning.
The Metropolitan Police insisted officers had not asked for senior civil servant Sue Gray's report to be delayed, but the force said it wanted to avoid any prejudice into their investigation.
Rishi Sunak's signalled to colleagues the £12 billion tax hike on national insurance contribution must go ahead. Yesterday, the Prime Minister refused to commit to the pledge while visiting Wales. What do you want the PM to do? Let us know. GB Views at gbnews.uk.
Nightclubs to reopen. The rule of 6 ends today in Wales as the First Minister confirms a move back to alert level 0. But face masks will remain mandatory in shops and on public transport.
And we're in Sherburn in Elmet today. On your doorstep, it's a village located in the Selby district of North Yorkshire between York and Leeds. And our reporter Anna Riley may be knocking on your door this morning.
OK, live across the whole of the UK on both your TV and your radio. You're very welcome. Thanks for watching and for listening. Wherever you are, you can take us with you.
It's 9:02. We have a developing story for you this hour. The Metropolitan Police have said allegations of any rule breaking in Number 10 during COVID restrictions should only have a minimal reference in the Sue Gray report.
Well, this is interesting. We're going to bring in our political correspondent on this one to find out, Tom Harwood, what the implications of this are, because the whole suspicion of this was that the report would not be published in full, and here's the excuse for that not to happen. And if it doesn't happen, of course, all you're going to hear is cover up, cover up, cover up, conspiracy. Give us your take.
Exactly. It's very convenient timing, to be honest, for Downing Street. Of course, this Met Police investigation came out of the blue earlier this week, a few days ago, and there was initially confusion as to whether or not this would stop the publication of Sue Gray's report. At the start of this announcement, everyone was saying, well, Sue Gray's report could be delayed now for weeks, it could be delayed for months. And then this more nuanced take, oh, OK, they're going to go over it line by line, they're going to see which bits maybe need to be tweaked or whatever. And now, definitively this morning, just an hour ago, the Metropolitan Police released this statement saying that the 8 gatherings, parties, whatever you want to call them, that occurred within Whitehall and Downing Street cannot be gone into in huge detail in this report. Now, Sue Gray now has a couple of options. Does she simply strip out the bits that refer to those parties? Does she delay publication of the report in its entirety?
Yeah.
What goes on now is a very open question, and this could delay it yet further.
Is the delay necessarily a bad thing? I mean, the suggestion, I suppose, is an indicator of how serious these allegations are. If the police are saying it could prejudice the legal investigation, then presumably there really is a sense that there was illegality and criminal activity here. I just want to read the Met statement that's come out this morning, just so that everybody's got it in full. It says, for the events the Met is investigating, we asked for minimal reference to be made in the Cabinet Office report. The Met did not ask for any limitations on other events in the report or for the report to be delayed, but we have had ongoing contact with the Cabinet Office, including on the content of the report, to avoid any prejudice to our investigation. We understand, as you say, it relates to
from the Met.
Parties. That's from the Met, yeah.
And the interesting point here is that they don't want the investigation to be prejudiced. There have been a few lawyers this morning who've been wondering what exactly it is about describing these parties in the Sue Gray report that could prejudice this investigation. It seems a little bit murky, a little bit curious as to what exactly would be the problem here. It's not like this is going before a jury. The other interesting thing about these events that the Met is investigating is we do not know which ones they are. We've heard over a dozen, maybe up to 20 different allegations across government, but we don't know if the ones that the Met are investigating involve junior people or if they involve the Prime Minister. That is pretty much...
There's two worlds colliding here, of course. There's the whole procedural thing about the police and what they've got to do to the letter of the law, and there's this whole political world that people just want answers to. And they've always said, I mean, particularly the opposition, are we going to get the report published in its entirety? Apparently not, and this is not going to please anyone, is it?
The interesting thing, I suppose, in all of this is whether or not by buying some more time for the Prime Minister, the conversation shifts. And there is some good news, a lot of good news floating around for this administration, not least the suggestion that the national insurance hike could be scrapped because borrowing has actually gone down. And the economy is growing faster than anyone had predicted. So the Prime Minister will be wanting to really build on that message to appease his backbenchers in the hope that actually this Met investigation could buy him some more time.
That's certainly true. In the last few times the Prime Minister has been interviewed this week, he's been less than clear as to whether or not this national insurance hike will go ahead, this big hundreds of pounds worth of tax increases that are due to land this year on families and businesses. Well, the OBR has recently come out with new figures suggesting that actually the Treasury has about £13 billion more than it thought it did because more people are in work, because the economy is growing faster than was expected. That's actually more money than the tax hike was going to bring in. So we could potentially be in this funny situation whereby taxes don't have to rise and the Treasury has more money than it would have if the taxes had risen.
Well, that's exactly what conservatism is supposed to produce, isn't it? You don't increase taxes because
you grow
you see
the
economy is growing, and that will be the best form of red meat that the backbenchers could
It absolutely would be.
Particularly in the red wall.
It would be a huge story, a good news story for the Prime Minister to tell, something that would move the conversation on, although we have heard voices from the Treasury that are very cautious. They do not like to rely on forecasts. They like to have a huge amount of headroom. And, of course, there is still a deficit in this country as well. So it would take us to where we were before, but not get us back in the black.
OK, Tom.
Interesting times.
Very interesting times. We might even hear from you before the end of the programme, before your own show starts. So thank you very much indeed. Appreciate that. Other news, let's bring you right up to date. And British companies are being warned to strengthen their digital defences following what is termed malicious online attacks in Ukraine.
While no current threats have been identified in the UK, the National Cybersecurity Centre says the incidents bear all the hallmarks of Russian activity.
The Foreign Secretary has defended her decision to use a private plane to fly to Australia, which reportedly cost around £500,000. Critics say the move was a grotesque misuse of public money, but Liz Truss says the government plane is there to make travelling easier for ministers.
COVID restrictions have been lifted in Wales. The rule of 6 has been scrapped. People no longer have to social distance and nightclubs can finally reopen. But COVID passes will still be required in cinemas, theatres and concert halls.
More than 1 million university students will be hit by up to 10 days of strikes next month. Lecturers at nearly 70 institutions are planning to take action over what they describe as beyond disgraceful pay conditions and pensions.
The government's pledging to make British Sign Language a recognised language. It's hoped a new bill will improve access for deaf people and promote its use during public announcements.
The National Trust has revealed plans to create a new habitat for wildlife. The so-called Green Corridor will link the centre of Bath to surrounding countryside, running through 40 hectares of meadowland. It's the first of 20 corridors the Trust will create by 2030 in England, Wales and Northern Ireland.
So from one beautiful green rolling pasture to another, we take you to Sherburn in Elmet. It's a village in the Selby district of North Yorkshire, nestled between York and Leeds. And our reporter Anna Riley is there for us this morning. Very good morning to you. You've been out and about all over the place for us there this morning. Where are you now?
Good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. Yes, I've moved to another street in Sherburn to go knock on a resident's door and see if we can get their take on the day's news. So we'll give them a knock here, see if we can get inside and find out what they think to the rising cost of living at the moment, because that's what we've been talking about. Hello. Good morning. Hello. GBNews. Are we all right to pop in and have a word? Yeah, thank you. Follow you through here. Lovely and toasty. Thanks for having us in.
No worries, no worries.
So, for our viewers and listeners on GB News, on Eamonn and Isabel's breakfast show, just introduce yourself for us.
I'm Simon, and just live in Sherburn and getting ready for work at the minute.
And I can see on your top there, Wake and Ski Boats UK. What is it that you do?
I sell boats, water skiing and wakeboarding boats, and a couple of other sort of outlets in outdoor leisure industry.
So, based on your work, how has the rise of cost of living affected you?
Seen increase in fuel cost, first and foremost, and I do a lot of mileage. And in terms of the actual business, a lot of our products here come from America, off-road buggies and quads which come from China. And due to rising container cost and shipping cost, they've gone up massively from, sort of £3,000-4,000 for a container from China up to £18,000-20,000 now. Still the same amount of product on there. And we've also seen product increase cost at manufacturing levels. So it's seen, massive increases.
Is there still the demand there, though?
Yes. Ironically, the weird thing is there's still a lot of demand, and the demand exceeds the supply, which again it's compounding. That increases the price even more, because it's almost a case of if you want it you pay it. So we're still seeing big sales and struggling to get the product, particularly on the boat side, more so than the other stuff we do. That has been, we can't get new boats out of the factory in the States at the minute for at least 12-18 months.
And is that because of COVID?
Yeah, I mean, if you shut something down for 3, 4, 5 months, the backlog of that is going to take a while to get through. Particularly in the boat side, we're seeing the shortage of the chips, the same as the rest of the automotive industry. You know, a lot of it is crossover products, and so yeah, it's they're having to limit their supply. And in fairness to them, they've got a domestic market that's way more important to them than a guy in Sherburn.
Don't do yourself down. But yeah, so for the people that can get the boats, then what do they do then? It's water skiing, wakeboarding.
Yeah, water skiing, wakeboarding, anything that's a towed water sport. We also run a ski club, which is just in Knaresborough. We've seen again a massive increase in people wanting to either have a go at water skiing, wakeboarding, or wanting to join the club, which I think on the back of that, and same with the boats to a degree, nobody's allowed to or scared to fly off anywhere on holiday anymore. So it's all about the staycation and what you can do as a family away from other people on your doorstep. And so we've seen increase in membership there, definitely.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun going on these boats, and I bet doing a live report from one would be a lot of fun as well.
We can arrange that, that's not a problem.
How long is it you've been in the business?
Well, I can't say I'll reveal my age, but a long time, yeah. I got into it at 16 and I'm 27 now, so...
27, you don't look a day over 27.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for speaking with us, Simon. So yeah, really interesting take there from Simon about his boating business and how the rise in prices has affected him.
You and me both, Simon. I'm 27 as well.
What? That's only 6 years younger than me. Anyway, Anna, have you enjoyed your day out?
It's been great, yeah. It's so lovely getting about and speaking to people that are in this village. Lovely community spirit here and speaking to all those different people to get their take. It's been fantastic. Really enjoyed it.
Make sure all the TVs are switched to GB News before you leave and the radios as well. Good stuff. Thanks so much, Emma.
In Sherburn in Elmet, which is between York and Leeds.
We're becoming sort of geographical experts in this job, aren't we?
Well, we are. We're now going to Penarth in South Wales. Hello, good morning, Margaret Mitchell. Margaret retires this weekend after childminding for,
she's a hero.
childminding for 37 years and 8 months.
Wow.
So you deserve that retirement there.
Yeah, there's nothing she won't have seen.
All those little ones. So that's Margaret, and she's in Penarth in South Wales. Enjoy your retirement, Margaret. No more children to worry about there.
She'll stay in touch with lots of those kids. They're so amazing, long-term childminders. Good stuff.
If you have someone you want us to mention, all you've got to do is get in touch.
Coming up, we have all your showbiz with Hannah Hope. See you in a moment.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, whatever you're doing, whatever you're up to, you're listening to us, Eamonn and Isabel, breakfast here on GB News.
Yeah, it is time to talk showbiz. It's Friday, everyone's thinking about chilling. It's that lovely part of the programme where we can relax and talk about what's going on in the world of showbiz. Hannah Hope is here. What have you got for us this week?
So this week, Only Fools and Horses star Patrick Murray, who played Wide Boy Mickey on the show, has been in the news because he was diagnosed, he had a tumour found in his lung, but he's going to be OK, which is really good. But he's done an interview to say that he would love to reprise his role on Only Fools and Horses and for the show to come back, but it would be too offensive for the woke BBC of today. So he thinks that plonkers, which is famously what Del Boy and Rodney called each other, would be banned. People would be offended by it on the front page of The Sun today.
That is on the front page of The Sun today, yeah. So.
And he also thinks that the famous bar scene in the bar when Del Boy is trying to pull some ladies and he leans on the bar and falls through, which is one of comedy's greatest moments, would also be too offensive.
Why?
Because he thinks that because they were seen as essentially chasing skirts, that, you know, people would take umbrage to that. So we are...
I despair.
Isabel and I were out. You were there as well.
You tipped us off. You sent us chasing after him.
We were at the Cirque du Soleil and you actually met David Jason, yes.
Yeah, we had a nice chat with him, didn't we?
Yeah, tracked him down.
Yeah, and he's also really up for reprising the role. Sadly, John Sullivan has died, who was the writer, but his son, Jim, is also a writer. So there is talk that potentially could he fill in those open ends of the script. So I think everyone would love to see it revisit, and I'm sure there'd be updates. But
it's a tough act to follow, though.
Version, definitely
absolutely.
Not a watered-down version. Can we talk about Kim Kardashian? So she's brought out this Skims range. So for those who don't know, this is it's like shapewear, it's like Spanx, but obviously she's got her famous curves. And if anyone knows about shapewear, it's Kim Kardashian.
And she calls them what?
Skims.
Well, I prefer Skims to Spanx.
Yeah, well, it's got her name in it.
It sounds better, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
They like to use their names in everything.
Yes.
With the Kardashians, it's got Kim in it. She
All
wanted to call it kimono, but she got accused of cultural appropriation because of the links to Japan. But anyway, Skims are doing really, really well.
So, yeah, you're looking at Kim Kardashian's Instagram, you think, oh, she's just posing in a bikini, she's just posing in her underwear. But posing in her underwear to over 200 million followers on Instagram has paid off because Skims has been valued at 2.4 billion. Billion. And she's had...
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. And because it also does loungewear, it's actually really comfortable. You know, you guys should try it. It's very comfortable to wear.
Send us some, we'd be very happy.
Exactly. But because they also do loungewear, in lockdown, people were buying all of these clothes, outfits. They're not too expensive. And, you know, you're part of the Kardashian brand now is having a slice of that luxury. And they've done really well, considering that they started out as essentially a group of reality stars.
But what I like about this is obviously shapewear is designed to make women feel more comfortable, smooth out the lumps and bumps, and you know they're obviously very beautiful girls, but also quite curvy, and it's kind of made it okay to wear shapewear. So I think that I'll give them some kudos for that, if not for the huge paycheck they're getting for the bikini shots.
Have you met any of the Kardashians?
No. Except Daddy, who's mummy. What's his name?
Caitlyn Jenner.
Caitlyn Jenner, yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
I've met him.
And what was she like?
She, very nice, yes. But I haven't met any of the others.
To your great distress, I'm sure you'd love the Kardashians.
We'll have to get them on GB News.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Sure, they'll be queuing up.
I'm sure, absolutely. Well, going from the Kardashians to dating. So if you're a mere mortal, you go on Tinder nowadays or Hinge, one of the apps to meet a match, to meet a loved one. If you're a celebrity, you go on an app called Raya. Only A-listers can get on. You have to be vetted.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, OK. No questions asked. But what we have found is Chelsea player Jorginho, I think I'm pronouncing that right, has been spotted on Raya in Miami, where he is training with his team, and he's actually got a girlfriend and baby in London. So sometimes people do get spotted on these apps when maybe they shouldn't be. But yeah, lots of people have used it. Lily Allen's used it. A lot of the Love Islanders use it. Strictly Stars. So yeah, it's lots of celebrities.
I can't see, I mean, if I was free, single, whatever, I can't see that I'd want to date a celebrity.
No, I mean, I think, but maybe some celebrities feel that they're in a safe space dating other
with
celebrities.
Each other, yeah. That's a fair point, Hannah, yeah.
So,
just think of that poor girl and her baby.
Absolutely. But obviously, you know, if it goes well on all these apps, you get to Valentine's Day. And Valentine's Day is just 2 weeks away, just to warn you both.
Okay, thanks for the heads up, okay.
And Heston Blumenthal is charging diners £749 to have a Valentine's Day meal at his restaurant.
Sorry. He's charging how much?
So let me break this down for you. So the bill would come for 2 people, £749. And obviously, you know, he's a world-class chef, and it's a posh restaurant called Dinner in London. But you pay £135 for food, £195 for a wine pairing. That's obviously times 2. And then add on the 13.5% service charge. It comes to £749. It's quite a lot, isn't it?
Could I get that same meal anywhere else? You know, it's only 2 for 1 deal or anything.
Well, do you know, I mean, I'm not really consumer, but I have done my homework on this. If you go to M&S or Waitrose, you can get, for Valentine's Day, you can get a starter, main course, side, dessert and a bottle of plonk for 20 quid. And then the same for £15 in Morrison's.
Yeah, but you know what? They will be same, but different. Whereas Heston Blumenthal, in his defence, he does like wacky petri dish, fluffy, all sorts, doesn't he?
That's true. I mean, it's sometimes nice to go out and have an occasion, get all dressed up. But yeah, it is quite expensive. Are you guys fans of Valentine's Day? Not with each other.
Oh no, definitely.
It's nice to celebrate.
What is life without romance?
Indeed, exactly. But I mean, even if you're not in a couple, I just think take advantage of these offers.
Yeah,
you know, go to M&S and Morrison's.
If I left it to my husband to be spontaneously romantic, I'd be eternally waiting. At least once a year, he's forced to be.
Oh, well, there we go.
So, you know, I might get some roses or something if someone reminds him.
Actually, do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to actually drop a hint to my other half.
Actually, I think you do very well on Valentine's Day. I bet Ruthie does very well out of you. But you give her a lovely day.
I'm a romantic. That's what I am. I mean, any woman would do well out of me being attached to me anyway. I just feel sorry that so many can't. Roses are red, violets are blue. We've got to the end of our programme for you. So we've got to say goodbye to you, Hannah Hope. Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend, Hannah. Isabel, you have a nice weekend as well.
Eamonn.
Everybody watching and listening to us, you have a very nice weekend as well, whatever you're up to. We'll be back Monday morning, 6 through to 9:30, to do it all again, and I hope you can join us for that. Go spread the word.
Yeah, but stay tuned our way, because up next, Tom Harwood is back with the briefing, and he'll have all the latest on Sue Gray's report. Will she or won't she be able to now report the full details of what happened in Partygate? That's in a few moments' time, but first of all, here's your weekend forecast. Have a great weekend. That's it from us. Bye-bye.
Hello, good morning. Chilly start to the day, frost in places and a few fog patches, but otherwise plenty of dry and bright weather at first today before it turns more unsettled, especially in the north later on. High pressure still close by, but what we'll see through the next few days is the influence of that high will wane. It will sink to the south. Low pressure will increasingly dominate things further north. And that's why we've got a breezier start to the day for the north and northwest. Some outbreaks of rain here. Cloud as well, frost and fog free, but otherwise fog patches for the next few hours across some southern parts of England into parts of Wales. Eventually they'll lift, and then decent sunny spells for the Midlands, East Anglia, South East England by this afternoon. Otherwise turning cloudier from the northwest. Temperatures in most places not far from average, but it does turn breezy. In fact, it turns increasingly windy in the north and northwest of Scotland as heavy rain moves in here. And that heavy rain persistent across the northwest Highlands overnight tonight. It will